Among the stars.
You're actually
Let
live while
me.
you're live,
Oh,
AP.
okay. Yeah, please. That's cool. That's cool.
Singing.
That's cool.
You
For this
see?
performance, I charge you $100 per attendee.
Salam.
Uh,
Hey,
Like
wait,
AP's voice.
I didn't even say TikTok time to rock. What?
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Let me see
go
this.
say, go
The
say.
super chat. Joseph Baum said, I have a crazy idea. If you know you need to be someplace at a certain time, but are always 10 minutes late, now stay with me. Start getting ready 10 minutes earlier. I'm just spitballing.
This doesn't work. Doesn't work.
I think he's addressing you.
If I consciously know that I am meant to get ready 10 minutes earlier because I'm always 10 minutes late, then I will start. Then I will, just be late again accordingly.
I have to say, everyone, in the name of full disclosure, as convenient as it is to blame the atheist for this live stream getting started late, this was actually on John McCrae, who can never figure out
Absolutely
how to.
wasn't.
This is John McCrae,
David
who can
did.
never figure out how to make a microphone work during a live stream.
I was here.
I'm
I
always.
was here at the very beginning.
Yeah. See, David interrupts my nice, peaceful Sundays with my family, and then wants me to last minute pull up on his live stream. So that's the ultimate issue. So you guys can blame him for disrupting my Sabbath.
And this
Sneako's
is the
talking
first
about
time
you,
that we are.
son.
Okay. Yeah.
What'd you say, AP?
No, I was saying this is the first time that I'm live with Mr. What do you mean? Is,
Is
is
it?
that
Is
your
it?
is that your real name? What do you mean?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
his
it is
legal
actually.
name. It's
Yeah.
what do
Legal
you
name. Yeah.
meme?
No, it's the first time
Yes.
that I'm actually live with John. I think no,
Hey,
I think we were
Yeah.
live once with I don't know whatever. Who
hey,
cares?
John, that would actually be funny to use in some sort of video at some point. You walk into a place and she's like, name, and you go, meme. What do you meme? That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right, guys. So we've been responding to Sneako. Now, quick question for everyone. I don't know what you guys are going to say. Why? But the question might arise. You've got some brand new guy who obviously doesn't know anything, and we're making video responses to him. So why would we be responding to someone who's totally clueless and dumb?
Well, I can start since I'm the one that started this, it looks like. I'm responding to him because he has influence. And whenever people have influence and have these ideas that they just kind of throw around, and I think it's always good to have somebody that can give a response, if for no other reason than for other people to think that there's no response that could be given. So sometimes I think that's good. And really, I just like, I want to put a little bit pressure on people sometimes to help them try to level up a little bit. Like if you're going to put out some information sometimes too, like make sure you do just a little bit of research at least give it a shot, And so like some of this is to help encourage some of that deeper and more critical dialogue as well. So
All right, AP. So you heard John point out that we're refuting Sneako because of his complete misinformation about the Holy Scriptures that you believe in.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I would say no. Yeah, but first off, he misrepresents my beliefs and No, I would say it's important because Sneako is obviously an intellectual heavyweight, uh, and okay, can I be serious for 1 second? So no, it's important because Sneako is actually a very influential figure, as John just pointed out, I believe, and Muslims also use every single influencer as an opportunity to kind of push their agenda. Look, everybody's converting to Islam while only two people are converting to Islam, and this guy Sneako also takes advantage of this whole Islam wave right now and puts out stuff in the name of Islam and talks to people in the name of Islam, talks about Islam, says things like haram, when stuff comes up that doesn't agree with Islam, and this is just very opportunistic, and I think it is important to point this out just to show how you can be completely ignorant, oblivious, and also very, very questionable in your behavior, and Muslims will still promote you as somebody who is converting to Islam because he's very smart and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we've been noticing this, of course, and that's that the this is part of the recent strategy of the Dawa guy. So way back in the day, Muslims wanted like their scholars and so on representing them, and then they started looking for like hand-picked da'is who meet certain requirements, and like people like Zakir Naik and Ahmed Deedat that started getting put forward as their champions of their religion. And then once we get to the age of the internet, they started going with whoever's like popular da'is. But these are people who actually know something about Islam, like Sajid and they're not the most popular, but like Sajid and Farid, they study their religion. Muhammad Hijab, Daniel Hakikachu, Sheikh Uthman, these guys study their religion, but they became more popular than their scholars, and so Muslims just rolled with it because you've got this whole avalanche of apostasy thing going on, and you can't pick and choose in these difficult times. But then now even more recently, they've ended up with anyone with a following, anyone who has a large following. It could be people who are completely ignorant of Islam. So Andrew Tate, Sneako, people who are completely ignorant of everything Islam teaches, they'll cling to these people. And it's kind of a trade-off. We want the Dawa guys want access to these guys' fans. And in response, you could do whatever you want. And you're going to get a free pass. Because notice, do they want to push Andrew Tate and Sneako too hard and say, hey, you shouldn't be, doing all this stuff with all these women and these cam girls and advocating all this stuff? You can find Muslims who do call them out, but you don't want to push too hard because these guys are going to leave Islam. They're narcissists, right? So here's the point. If the Dawa guys get to use these guys and their platforms to spread misinformation, then great. We get to use them to spread the corrections of the misinformation. That's the idea. If you guys are going to use these guys' popularity to spread a bunch of complete nonsense, then we will do the exact same thing to correct the mistakes, and that's what we're going to do here. So John recently posted a video responding to Sneako. I did as well. Sneako did like a 25-minute response to John. I can't even call it a response. It's like a reaction where he watched John's entire video during a live stream. So it's actually cool. To his credit, he actually watched the entire video. His responses were awful, but to his credit. Then he clicked on mine and stopped it. He looked like he got annoyed at my joke. So, how about we actually watch? I've got the video keyed up here, but let's. I want to actually skip to the end. Watch just the end part with me, because we could get Sneako's response to me because it's short. Does that all work?
Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever you say.
All right. Click on this and skip to the end.
Right now?
Let me skip to the end where he's talking to me.
Yo, you ready to box this weekend? I'm gonna be in Miami tomorrow. Okay, so don't use the Rumble bands to go talk to me. It hasn't been tampered with the way the Bible has. But use my name and then don't give me credit, bro. Fuck that. Fuck.
Okay, yeah. There are going to be some language warnings, ladies and gentlemen.
This is unacceptable.
What do you mean?
Okay, so we're skipping to the end here, ladies and gentlemen.
What do the comments say?
I thought this is a Christian channel. What is with the language?
And be loved by God.
Yes, unfortunately, we have Sneako on here.
You want to obey.
We got Sneako on here. Great genius of Dawa.
Sneako was as Christian as Andrew Tate was, so no surprise that he embraced Islam too. No, I grew up Catholic. I almost got confirmed.
I grew up Catholic. We're about to see. So this is the guy who grew up Catholic, who thinks that the Council of Nicaea was a book of the Bible, as we're about to see. And when he actually quotes Matthew, he brings it up during a search, and he doesn't know what the Gospel of Matthew is. He says Matt verse 39. The guy goes, what chapter? He goes, I don't know. Matt 39. He doesn't know the Gospel of Matthew. Anyway, let's see his response to me.
Gamer, I'm distancing myself from Sneako. Whoa, deja vu. Yeah, whatever. But that's the problem of not having
Click on the video, man.
BotTube snake behavior. It's not that bad, but it's selective editing, and it's a very Abba and Preach tactic, and it shows that like most of the people on YouTube don't see the selective editing tactics.
I don't know what he's using with oblong. I don't know.
Abba and Preach, their channel. By the way, too, I think you said it, just to give you guys a heads up, there's a warning language here because he uses a lot of profanity in this video. So
yeah, I could have bleeped them out, but it's a lot. So language warning to everyone who's watching. Let's see.
People use.
Click on this.
Like, yeah, when you go clip things in a way that makes you seem like you're a genius, you're always going to look smart to the comment section.
That's true. That's not what we're doing, though. You're saying
It's
false
so funny.
things.
He says obviously dumb things, but
Watch
then
the
he
next
blames
video?
it on editing. It's
Yeah.
very funny.
Yes. Here's where he reads someone tells him, watch the next video.
Let's see. How long is it?
Looks like Sneako is about to have a really bad weeko. If you
Watch him.
Allahu Akbar!
That's him. He did the sound effect.
Looks like Sneako is about to have a really bad weeko.
He was. Look at him.
Where is he going? What in the world?
that was a boomer joke. That's a boomer.
Okay. He basically watches a couple seconds of it and then stops.
Sneako is welcome to the club. Why am I talking about?
Chad, do you think that he cited my Rumble channel, or did he talk about how I was banned on YouTube?
That's his objection. I didn't cite his Rumble.
Yeah.
Now, guys, combined here. So, John McCrae, David Wood, apostate prophet. How many videos do you think there are on YouTube responding to us in one way or another, or clipping us or something?
Yeah, hundreds.
Yeah, I'd say hundreds at least, if not thousands. At least hundreds.
Yeah.
So at least hundreds of videos responding to us. How many times have we whined, you didn't link to our stuff?
I literally never even thought about anything like that. Like that.
Yes,
that's just
never crossed my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the issue here is also that I think he's sponsored by Rumble. Because Rumble is like sponsoring certain creators, especially who were banned. He was banned from YouTube, I think, for repeatedly violating guidelines, and then he switched over to Rumble, and he was sponsored by Rumble, so he wears these Rumble shirts and all that. And I think that's why it's very important for him that you actually link to his stuff.
Have you noticed this pattern? You've got these guys, and they'll say a bunch of stuff that eventually ticks off the main platforms. Then they'll go to Rumble and convert to Islam. Have you noticed that? It's like tainted that Sneako. It's like the exact same pattern.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, Rumble goes after people who get kicked off of YouTube because they're trying to provide an alternative platform. So they get offered a deal, by the way.
Yeah, which is smart. Which is smart for the platform. So yeah, that's not a criticism of Rumble. It's a criticism like the guys like why is this the new pattern? You say a bunch of messed up stuff. Yeah.
Well, I think more than two people would define as a pattern, but it's all good.
That's a pretty distinct pattern.
I mean, yeah, if you say so. Two people, we'll wait till 3, then call it a pattern.
All right, should we watch some Sneako?
Yes, sir.
All right,
I watched this, by the way, to give people a heads up. I watched it through once when people were commenting, telling me he responded. So I went and found it and watched it through once. So I've seen it. I'm not sure if you guys have, but I've seen it all the way through once. So.
I watched it when I was getting this clip ready, so I have a general idea. AP, did you watch this?
I started watching it, but then as I was reacting to it, I thought to myself, okay, I will not ruin it. I'll keep it for a live stream. So I didn't watch the rest. I just watched a few minutes of it.
All right, so we're going to watch Sneako, and this is kind of, I don't know, it's getting kind of meta. So it's Sneako talking, and then John McCrae replying to Sneako, and then Sneako reacting to John McCrae, replying to Sneako, and then us watching Sneako. So anyway, it's like this Russian, it's like this Russian nesting doll situation going on. All right, so let's go ahead and see Sneako responding to John McCrae. So the new face of Islam, the new face of Delwa, responding to John McCrae. But again, to his credit, he actually plays John's video. And then I wanted to start with the clip of me at the end, because sometimes it takes me a while to figure out why people watch someone else, right? Like way back in the day when I saw some clips of Alex Jones, and he was saying, the school shootings are staged, and these are all actors and stuff like this, and the massacres are staged to, so the left can take your guns. I was like, why are people listening to this dude? And then I watched an Alex Jones video one day, and it was hilarious, right? It was hilarious. The entire video where he's actually talking was like a 1980s wrestling promo. But it's him talking the entire time. So it's like, oh, I get it. Same thing with Andrew Tate. It's like Andrew Tate and all the stuff he's saying about when it's like, why are people watching this guy? And I watch him like, oh, I get it. Oh, if you join me, you're strong, and if not, you're a pathetic little weakling. And so I'm like, okay, I get why stupid people fall for it. With Sneako, I'm like, the guy has no clue about anything he's talking about, and he sounds like an idiot. Why is anyone watching him? And then sort of at the end when he reacted to mine, he's like, oh, it's actually funny. This dude's funny. Like I didn't actually pick up that he was funny from his responses to John. He sounded like a sniveling crybaby the entire time.
No, he's entertaining. He has that aspect. I mean, it's like you don't get anything intellectually, significant out of this. But if you watch him and you watch his reactions, the guy is actually entertaining, and this appeals to to the pop culture. So
yeah. And me and AP issued this invitation yesterday. Sneako, if you ever want to come talk to us about Islam, Christianity, anything, open invitation. We know you're new, so we're not trying to catch you off guard. So you can bring someone with you. Bring someone. Bring some new scholar, whatever scholar you like, or something like that. Happy to have them. All right, let's see. Sneako, destroy John McCrae. Get ready to get humiliated again, John.
I know it's gonna hurt.
The end of John McCrae. Here we go.
Do we want to get into religion right now? Yo, you ready to box this weekend? I'm going to be in Miami tomorrow. Okay, so don't use the Rumble bands to go talk to me directly.
Now, the famous influencer Sneako.
Oh, here we go. We can watch this. Sneako's arguments against Christianity. Popular influencer Sneako, but they can't say Rumbler. Just say Rumbler. Just say Rumbler. No. Okay, fine.
Go ahead. When I made my video, I made it in response to a YouTube link that John sent me. So, here's what I want to say, because he's going to keep whining about this, right? Sneako, if you want us to link to your Rumble, just say, hey, guys, can you link to my Rumble? That's how you do it. We know you live in a world where you throw a tantrum over this stuff. And now you've entered an ideology that is going to encourage you to constantly claim to be a victim. Oh, they're victimizing me by not linking. It's pretty straightforward. Hey guys, could you link to my Rumble? That's it. That's all that's required.
I would do it.
I would do it. I would do it. I'm not doing it when he whines, but I will do it because I'm not encouraging the sniveling and crying. But if he just asks, he doesn't have to grovel, just has to ask like an adult.
Consistently given everyone 5 reasons for why he recently embraced Islam and why he rejects Christianity. Now, there's a lot of people saying that he only converted to Islam because Andrew Tate did, but I personally don't know the man's motives and won't jump to any conclusions. However, if he is being sincere in the reasons that he gives, then we should expect for Sneako to leave Islam and embrace Christianity by the time that he's done watching this video. The reason why is because...
But he did watch the video. Wait, hang on. Notice, John, if he's sincere, then he's going to convert to Christianity by the time he's done.
Yeah, there's an argument there. That's right. The premises.
But he didn't convert. Therefore.
So which premise is false?
Yeah, he's not sincere. He's not sincere. So that's the conclusion to draw.
Which I for example, I watched the video and I left Islam and converted to Christianity. Yeah.
See, you heard it here, folks.
That's funny. Yeah.
The 5 reasons that he gives, if he wants to be consistent, are the very things that should actually
We got 4K, or is it going to be laggy?
cause him to reject Islam and instead become a Christian. So, don't believe me? I'll prove it. Let's start with his first reason.
Okay.
Why I resonate with Islam, why it makes sense for me, because it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me to pray to a man. I don't want to submit to a man. The only person that we should submit to and that we should pray to should be the one creator of the universe, which is...
Wait, what did he say? Did he say the only man we should submit to? Hang on. I want to see that again.
Or is it going to be laggy?
Cause him to reject Islam and instead become a Christian. So, don't believe me? I'll prove it. Let's start with his first reason.
Okay.
Why I resonate with Islam, why it makes sense for me, because it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me to pray to a man. I don't want to submit to a man. The only person that we should submit to and that we should pray to should be the one creator of the universe, which is Allah. He created the universe, and we love him for it.
Wait,
Perfect.
did he say...
Why I resonate with Islam, why it makes sense for me, because it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me to pray to a man. I don't want to submit to a man. The only person that we should submit to and that we should pray to should be the one creator of the universe, which is Allah. He created the universe, and we love him for it. Perfect. That really, it makes the most sense to me.
So as you just heard, Sneako doesn't like the idea of submitting to a man and therefore decided to reject Christianity and to embrace Islam. But unfortunately,
there are a lot of reasons. That wasn't the reason that I reverted to Islam, but that's the reason why Christianity never resonated with me, really.
if Sneako really does have a
People are asking him why he converted. He gives the reasons. Then we say, hey.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the reason.
That's what I was, yeah.
He will keep doing that again and again, but he just doesn't understand. I mean, John starts counting the reasons, and he mentions one reason. And he's like, well, that's not the only reason. There are more reasons.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
I said in the intro 5 reasons, but yeah.
That's an ongoing problem is John will start responding to something. And they'll go, but there's this other stuff. And then, like, John's about to respond to the other stuff. It's this ongoing thing where he flips out, like, so notice, it's like, if you have three things you want to respond to him about, you know, something he said, then as soon as you start responding to one, he starts going, oh, but what about this other? And it's like, what if you have the slightest bit of patience here, buddy? Just a slight bit. All right, here we go.
Was submitting to a man, then he should reject Islam. The reason why is because, according to the Quran, Sneako is actually commanded to submit to Muhammad, who's a man. So if this is a real reason for why Sneako...
But you don't pray to Muhammad.
Okay. Well, first problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's two big ones here. Just with that. Yeah. But we don't pray to him. So notice, he said, I don't believe in praying to a man or in submitting to a man. You point out that according to the Quran, you have to submit to Muhammad. It's a requirement. Yeah. Surah 4, verse 65 says you are not a Muslim unless you submit to all of Muhammad's decisions. You have to submit to everything Muhammad decides. And then as soon as you point out that he said he doesn't want to submit to a man, and therefore he just contradicted the Quran because the Quran requires him to submit to a man, he says, but we don't pray to him. So that's the other. So note, yeah, you made 2 claims. He destroyed one, and then you said, what about the other one? Okay, I mean, you said submit. You said that. You said that. And then the other one, of course.
To be clear, he actually made 3 because he did say worship. But I addressed the worship question too here in a second. So just to be clear, but go ahead.
Oh, and yeah, the other thing I was focusing on is Muslims they would say they don't pray to Muhammad, but they speak directly to Muhammad during their prayers. There's a part of their prayers where they say, peace be upon you, O Prophet. Notice, not, oh Allah, please send peace on this other person, Muhammad. They speak directly to Muhammad. So a Muslim praying in a mosque, wherever Sneako goes, actually speaks directly to Muhammad. Hey, Muhammad, peace be upon you, during his prayers. It's always important to keep in mind this distinction. Guys, if I say, God, please bless grandma, who's dead, if I were to say, please bless, I don't know why I would be doing that, but if I were to say, please bless grandma, then I'm talking to God about grandma. If I say, oh, grandma, I really love you, and I'm speaking directly to grandma who's dead in my prayers, that's speaking to someone else in my prayers. And so anyway, this is interesting. You guys have anything you want to add, or should we continue this clip?
Well, I want to say.
I was just going to
Go
say, I
ahead.
put a bunch of verses on the screen too, so that's it. But anyways, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. Even if we grant the whole idea that okay, you technically do not worship or do not pray to Muhammad, so you could just excuse the whole sending blessings, prayers, and whatever it is. It is still weird. I mean, he doesn't really explain why it is absurd, to worship or to pray to a man, and he cannot really properly draw a distinction there between why it is then okay to simply submit to a man without praying to him or without worshiping him. So we don't even have the logic of why it is so bad to worship a man. So he has to explain that first. But that's the whole problem with all of his reasoning. He never actually explains the logic behind why the Islamic theology makes more sense to him, why worshiping only the Islamic sense of God and not the Christian sense of God makes more sense to him. He doesn't explain any of these things. He just says, it makes sense to me. I feel like this is good. That's it.
And I actually
I agree.
What were you just saying? I was reading some comment. I was reading a comment that someone trying to defend what he said. Hang on. Okay, let me read this because I want to post this other comment. So Heidi said, it's like he's having a conversation with John. He responds with his sincere objections, then pushes play, and John's next thing answers it.
Yeah,
Precisely.
That does happen a lot. Yeah.
Here's the comment that threw me off. Buzz says, if people say, bless you, he prayed to another person and worship him. Just how stupid can you be, Wood? Okay, let me break this down for you. Buzz.
Oh my. Okay.
If AP is standing beside me and he sneezes and I say, God bless you. Okay, I'm talking to AP. Why? Because I'm assuming that AP is right there and he can hear me. If AP weren't here and I were talking to God, I would say, oh God, please bless AP. I'd be talking to God about AP if AP is not here. So when Muslims say, peace be upon you, O Prophet, during their prayers, they're speaking directly to Muhammad during prayers, which are supposedly reserved for Allah alone. And the idea that you're not treating him as a partner with Allah is just kind of weird to us. All right, let's go ahead.
Rejects Christianity, then he should also reject Islam. But what's even more interesting is the reason that he gives for why he thinks that he should only worship Allah. He said that he only wants to worship Allah because Allah is God, Allah is the creator of the universe, and therefore we should love him for it. But ironically, in Christianity, Jesus is God. He created the entire universe. So why does Sneako have a problem with worshiping Jesus in Christianity? Well, the reason why is
because you say that a man is God. That's Christianity. And everybody in the chat, yeah, bro, like, you don't pray to Muhammad. That's the whole point.
You speak to him during your prayers. What do you call that? Anyway.
That's the whole, peace be upon him. Like, you don't, of course we love him, but it's just that simple.
Because Sneako seems to have a problem with Jesus being both God and man.
Yes.
Fair enough. So for argument's sake, let's go ahead and say that Jesus isn't God and that he's only a man. So
this is an ongoing problem. I'm going to have to back this up, right?
This is the worst moment. I mean, this is the most significant moment that I have seen so far here, where he clearly shows that he's unable to listen to another person and he's unable to comprehend simple things that are said to him. He's given a hypothetical and he's like, what? You just said that? Man, watch it.
Yeah, he didn't give enough time for me to even explain before he responded. That's why it's kind of funny, because once he understands it, then, yeah, anyways, you'll see. But yeah.
It's just weird because he doesn't seem to be able to understand a hypothetical.
Yeah.
And I see this over and over again. I just saw it when AP said that Fareed was responding to us. I clicked on the video to see if I should to look at the comments to see if I should watch it. And one of the comments was saying, "Oh, David says that the Apostle Paul had no support in the first century, and therefore that it would be a miracle if he survived." And it's like, no, I was saying according to what Sajid and Fareed claimed, and according to Islamic belief, The Jews wouldn't have liked him spreading what they regarded as a heresy. The Romans wouldn't like him proclaiming another guy as king. And according to Islam, Jesus' followers were Muslims, and therefore they wouldn't have supported Paul. And therefore, according to you, he would have had no support. And according to Sajid and Farid's reasoning, if someone survives in a hostile environment, it's a miracle. And therefore, according to you guys, Paul's more miraculous than Muhammad. And then they oh, he's saying this? I'm not saying that. You got... It's so weird. So notice John says, for the sake of argument, let's suppose you're right and Jesus is just a man. If you're going to submit to a man, which one would you be submitting to? And he's, what? You're saying Jesus is just a man? It's like, it's kind of weird. Like, what guys, what do you do when you're responding to someone and you're being logical and saying, here are the implications of what you're saying, and they don't understand anything? Like, I don't know. How do you have a conversation with someone who doesn't understand anything you're saying?
It's hopeless.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's go. Sneako!
Christians, you jacking that?
Let me back it up. Look, he's like, you see Christians?
Both God and man. Yes. Fair enough. So, for argument's sake, let's go ahead and say that...
For argument's sake,
you say it explicitly.
Jesus isn't God and that he's only a man. So
Yo, Christians, you jacking that? That made no sense. Oh, no. That's the whole reason why Christianity didn't resonate with me. And then you're going to say, for argument's sake, that goes against the religion. Wait a second. Run that back. What?
Because Sneako seems to have a problem with Jesus being both God and man. Fair enough. So, for argument's sake, let's go ahead and say that Jesus isn't God and that he's only a man. So,
that's Islam!
Oh, man. Oh,
yeah.
boy.
Yeah,
Is that Islam?
Yeah, we know.
Oh, man.
John's saying, if you're right, for argument's sake, let's assume you're right.
What? You said I'm right?
That's Islam! Yay! Alhamdulillah! Right, here we go.
Oh, man.
Why would you even present a hypothetical that debunks the whole religion?
So if you have to submit to a man in both Islam and Christianity, then who does Sneako think is the more rational person to submit to? On the one hand, we have Muhammad, who wasn't born of a virgin.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a human being, like the rest of us, do have sin.
Needed forgiveness for his sins.
The promise of God is that he does forgive sins, and his promise in the Quran is that he has forgiven the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, for his sins, past and future.
And according to Sneako...
I understand what the hypothetical is, and I understand for example, but that's a stupid example to make because then that's not Christianity anymore.
He wasn't perfect and did some
his own
questionable things.
What'd you say, AP?
His own chat is criticizing him because he doesn't get the point, and he still insists on it.
Yeah. So notice the people who are watching him, they understand what John is saying.
Yeah. Because he keeps saying that debunks Christianity, but it's like, wait, if I'm saying for argument's sake, everybody else understood it in the chat, so I mean it's okay.
And he played it twice. You saying for argument's sake. And apparently for him, if you say for the sake of argument, let me grant for the sake of argument to show you what your claim leads to. And he thinks if you say that, then you actually are agreeing with everything you said hypothetically. This is weird. Yeah, so someone just asked, is Sneako playing dumb or is he actually this dumb?
Yeah.
It's weird how everyone else gets it. Anyway.
Grooming?
Yeah, it's gross.
How do you feel about like the fact that Muhammad...
Let me back that up there.
He wasn't perfect and did some questionable things.
Are you against grooming?
Yeah, it's gross.
How do you feel about like the fact that Muhammad like married a 9-year-old girl?
I don't know how true that is.
But I don't think any Muslims deny it.
If that's true, then he's not. Then nobody's perfect.
So, if Sneako doesn't have a problem with submitting to a man like Muhammad, who, even according to him, wasn't morally perfect, then why would he have a...
That was before I reverted to Islam. She's asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. I was saying that I was thinking about Islam. This is before. And I understand now that a lot of the time the parents have better decision-making abilities than the woman, and it was a different time. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, was definitely not a pedophile. He had many wives. A lot of them were older than him. I think his first wife was 50 when he was 25. and he was friends with Aisha, peace be upon her. He was friends with her parents. So I don't think that that's an example of pedophilia, no.
Problem submitting.
I don't think. It doesn't matter what you think.
I mean, think about that logic, though, right there. Would that logic work in any other situation? So he wasn't a pedo because he had older wives, too. With that, I mean, I think about even in court or something like that, right? If somebody says, oh, I mean, sir, I mean, I'm not a... And plus, by the way, in the clip, the girl was talking about him grooming her, too, by the way. So he was responding to the Muslim responses that they use for that claim. But there, it wasn't even about him. She didn't even say he was a pedo. Instead, she said that he was grooming Aisha, which, I mean, obviously he was. I don't think you can deny that.
And this is another example of two massive problems here. One, notice, if you just asked him, so he's saying that was before he converted to Islam and was being asked about Muhammad. So before, notice, guys, if no one beats me to it, Sneako changes, title of a video, Sneako changes his mind about child marriage after converting to Islam. That's your video title, right? If anyone beats me to it, you beat me to it. But if not, I'll go ahead and make that video. So notice it's if you ask Sneako, as messed up as he is before he converts to Islam, hey, is it wrong to have sex with a little girl? Yeah, it's wrong. That's gross. And now, no, I can't say it's wrong. As long as the parents approve. It's the Fareed response.
Yeah, even that, right? Like sometimes parents know best. Not in that case, you know what I mean? Not to have him marry a 54-year-old man who's going to groom her and have sleep with her at that early age. That's crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's some parents that don't know best a lot, and so yeah.
And so someone in the chat gives an example. Okay, Sneako, according to that logic, then what's the problem with transing kids if the parents agree?
Oh yeah, good call. Good. Yeah, good point.
And the other problem with what he just said is you can read the DSM-5. That's the standard work in diagnosing mental disorders. You can go to the section on pedophilic disorder. So these are pedophiles. They actually distinguish between exclusive type pedophilia and non-exclusive type pedophilia. Exclusive type pedophiles are only attracted to children. Non-exclusive type pedophiles are attracted to kids in the same way they're attracted to adults. Or they might have some sort of preference, but they're sexually attracted to both. That's still pedophilic disorder. So he's completely wrong according to like standard works in psychology. They would classify Muhammad, since he was attracted to a 6-year-old, they would classify him as non-exclusive type pedophile. Mm-hmm. So wrong. So
someone like Jesus, who, even according to Islam, was born of a virgin, performed miracles, and wasn't a sinner. If submitting to a man really is a problem for Sneako, then he should reject Islam, since it requires Muslims to submit to Muhammad. And if he decides to have a change of mind and conclude that he's actually okay with submitting to a man, then once we compare Jesus and Muhammad, even according to Sneako's own standards, then it makes a lot more sense for him to be a Christian and not a Muslim. Now, let's move on.
That was a pretty good argument. Yeah. So just to recap, and John, you can correct me. Sneako says, I rejected Christianity because I don't want to submit to a man. And then you point out that the Quran requires him to submit to a man, Muhammad. And then you say, for the sake of argument, let's assume you're right and Jesus is just a man. So now you've got two options of men you can submit to with very different teachings. Should you submit to this guy who's not born of a virgin, can't do any of this stuff, is a sinner, even according to your own sources, or a guy who, even according to the sources that you now believe in as a Muslim, was vastly superior to this guy in all kinds of ways? Whom should you submit to here? Even according to your own criteria, you should be submitting to Jesus. Is that about right?
Yep, that's it. That's right.
Let's see if he gets it.
To another reason that Sneako gives for converting to Islam.
I like the fact that you pray 5 times a day in Islam. You're going to be more grounded. They take prayer more seriously than any other religion.
All right. Now, this is actually a really strange one, because not too long after he recorded this video, he asked for guidance in this area, and he said this.
I don't have the time to pray 5 times a day. Are you supposed to take all the steps fully? Are you supposed to fully dive into it, or can you, like, what's the next move?
So now, it's pretty strange that he cites praying 5 times a day as something that he likes about Islam, which is ironically the same thing that he thinks that he can't do. Now, I'm not sure if he realizes that these prayers aren't prayers that spontaneously come from the heart. Instead, these prayers are just memorized sayings in Arabic, which is, of course, a language that...
Wait, so liking structure means that it doesn't come... What?
Sneako doesn't understand. But Sneako just likes a structure that comes with ritualized...
That's an example. He goes, what? I like structure. And then John immediately says, well, if you like structure. This is why people were pointing out it's actually like a conversation, because every time he jumps in, well, what about this? And John... kind of funny.
Oh, that's funny.
Hey, John, why you look like a monster here?
or memorized prayer, then he could have just stayed in his Catholic church, since they have recited.
Yeah, this is a very Auburn preach tactic. Like when
John, what's he calling this?
He's referring to Auburn Preach, who's another YouTube channel who called Sneako out on a bunch of stuff, and he's saying that the editing is dishonest, but it's literally not. Like anybody, and I was planning on going back to go try to pump all the links in the description so people can watch them all, because him just fulfilling the context, in my opinion, is just an excuse. There's literally no dishonest editing there. It's not like his point was changed. If his point was changed, that would be one thing. But even here, he tries to justify what I said, basically, you know what I mean? Because you just say, well, I'm new to Islam, which you'll hear, but I'm like, that doesn't, so he's just referring to a YouTube channel called Auburn Preach, basically, but I think it's just an excuse, yeah.
No, it's totally an excuse, and it's, yeah, guys, if you're going to say someone is taking things out of context, that means something, because anytime you quote someone and don't quote, I mean, if I quote an entire chapter of War and Peace, you could say I'm taking it out of context if I don't quote the entire book. Right? When we talk about taking something out of context, it's you're significantly changing the meaning of what's been said by destroying the context. It's like if I say, oh man, I was walking down the street the other day and some guy walked up to me and said, I hate you. And then you just quote me saying, I hate you, as if I'm saying it when I'm actually saying what someone else, okay, that's ripping something out of context. No one's doing that here. Everything John is saying that Sneako gave as a reason is something that Sneako gave as a reason. And so anyway, but it's actually rough if he's already in the, oh, you've ripped it out of context, because that's standard Islam right there. Anytime you quote a Quran verse, it's out of context.
David, can you put something on the screen if I send it to you, or can I?
What if you send me a link or something?
Yeah.
If you send it, send me a.
I will send you a link here.
Send it to my email.
I just sent it to you in the guest chat here in your eCam thing.
I do not know how to use any sort of guest chat in this program.
On the right, you have this.
I'm not using your program. Do you use eCam AP? No, you don't.
It is your program. It is your program. I'm in there right now. I'm sending you. Okay, whatever.
Okay, I don't know where it is.
Or I can just talk about it.
Oh yeah. Just go ahead and quote anything you want.
So there is a research from Pew Research from 2012, and I think they also made a related research about this, where they try to analyze the commitment of Muslims to religious obligations, including prayer. And I brought this up in the past. I made videos about this whole issue. So Muslims are required by their Islamic faith to pray 5 times a day. And actually there are lots of, there are hadiths and rulings which condemn Muslims who don't do these prayers. So they are obligated to do it. It's not like I have to do it. It's not like I want to do it so much because I love it. No, you have to do it or else. But the issue is when research goes around and asks Muslims around the world whether they actually do these prayers, the findings are in extremely highly populated Muslim countries like Pakistan, for example, only 42% said 10 years ago or 11 years ago that they pray 5 times a day. 8% said that they pray several times a day. Half of them say they don't pray at all. In Bangladesh, which is highly populated again, only 30% pray 5 times a day. 9% pray several times a day. most of them don't. In some Muslim countries like Indonesia, which has a high population, most people say they pray. But again, if they break it down, I think, I don't exactly remember the figure, but when they break it down as a rough estimation for the overall Muslim population in the world, they conclude that around half of Muslims don't actually do these 5 daily prayers. And this just shows that Muslims themselves find it hard to be committed to this. They don't actually do this. And I know this from experience. Muslims know this from experience. Every other Muslim just doesn't do these prayers because it is not really doable. Even the most committed, the most religious ones are often unable to actually do these prayers because it is just, praying 5 times a day, interrupting your day 5 times and doing these repetitive prayers every single time, the same thing, without adding anything from your heart at all. It is just, it doesn't work. It is not. It doesn't appeal to the average human. The average human has a very hard time doing it, and this is what Allah, wants every single human to do. Apparently, He doesn't really understand His own creation. So, this is actually a big criticism that I often bring up, and others also mention. So, the fact that he would actually use this as something that makes Islam good is funny to me.
And the fact that he's just saying, "I like this, therefore I converted to it." It's like, if just saying you like something means you convert to it. So what if someone says, "I like beer, therefore I'm leaving Islam"? You would think they would think that's a stupid reason. If someone says, "I really like ham, so I can never be a Muslim," they would think that's a pretty. Just imagine, like, okay, so I like these Norwegian seed crackers, right? So I'm going to become an Odinist. Norwegian seed crackers, bake these things. Oh man, now I have to worship Odin and Thor and all that stuff because I like Norwegian seed crackers. All right.
Well, see, and if you notice too, I use that because I was keeping with his logic. So if he says that he converted because he likes this, that's what I'm using as the criteria here, right? I'm saying, well, if you like that, you know what I mean? Then if you like it, but you can't do it, then why don't you do something that you can like? And so that's where I was trying to stick with his logic on it too, to try to make it more consistent for him. So I wasn't kidding when I said it would make more sense for him to embrace Christianity because that would be more consistent with the way that he reasoned to these conclusions. But yeah,
let's go
keep going though.
Let's go ahead and see his response.
To selectively edit clips like that, and that
he's still whining about the selectively editing. Did John or did he not misrepresent what you said?
Exactly. If not, he could just give the real context there. He's like, well, what I was saying would have been this, and he tries to do a little of that here, but it doesn't really change anything. So go ahead.
Because I'm still trying to find the time. I don't even know how to pray correctly. Like, I'm still learning how to recite the words properly.
A prayer as well. I mean, unless he just likes the fact that they pray 5 times a day. Well, if that's the case, then there's no reason that he couldn't set a clock, get down on his knees, and pray 5 times a day as a Christian. So if this really was a reason for why he converted to Islam, then he shouldn't be a Muslim, since in Islam, he's obligated to pray 5 times a day. And he even said himself that he can't meet all his obligations since he doesn't have the time for it. So instead of embracing Islam, he really should just embrace Christianity. The next reason that Sneako can...
One second. So we have I like being miserable, so I'll convert to atheism. And then where'd that comment go? Okay, here you go. We're talking about worship. We're talking about context earlier. Says, David Wood said he worships Odin. You can imagine Sneako watching my video when I go, "Oh, I like Norwegian seed crackers. I guess I'll convert to Odinism." You can imagine, what? What? Christians, you hear this? You hear this? This is wild stuff, man.
This is crazy.
Any more comments on this before we jump into John's next point here?
No, I don't think so.
So it's I like the idea of praying a certain number of times per day, and John's response, well, you could pray that number of times per day. And if it's, I want the structure. Okay. You had that in Catholicism. So what exactly are you saying? And then in addition to all that, you're just saying, here's what I like.
No.
Okay. Well, great. Well, I don't like submitting to a guy who molested a little girl. So according to Sneako, I should never convert to Islam. And anyone who has a problem with molesting little girls shouldn't convert to Islam, according to Sneako, because it's what we like. What would a Muslim say? It doesn't matter what you like. It doesn't matter what you like. If this is what God has revealed, then you submit to it. Anyway.
Yeah.
I like Coke Zero.
You see?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's no... Is he making any arguments that are worthwhile? Like, should I keep watching or not?
Gives for why he rejects Christianity in favor of Islam is his problem with hierarchies.
Like why I never felt like Christianity spoke to me. For example, like there's a hierarchy in Christianity. They have, well, in Catholicism, they have bishops, they have priests, they have the Pope. There's like a power structure, like politics in the religion, which makes no sense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Islam, there is none. It's just we're all equal. We're all God's children.
Wrong.
So here Sneako says that he has a problem with hierarchies in Catholicism and therefore converted to Islam since there are no hierarchies in Islam and we're all children of God. All right, lots of issues with this one. First off, to say that he likes the idea that we're all God's children in Islam rather than Christianity is exactly backwards. The idea that God is our father and we're his children comes straight from Christianity. In fact, it's actually offensive to say such a thing.
Maybe not the word children, but the word creation.
Islam, since the best relationship that...
Great. Wow.
I don't like Christianity. I like Islam better than Christianity because, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't we all God's children in Islam? And then you say, no, you're God's children, and God is your heavenly father in Christianity, not in Islam. And he's, well, creation then. Okay, well, you're creation in either one.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, I'm like, well, creation, like, what does that mean? Like, doesn't Allah create like sticks and stones and trees? And so it's like, we're all his creation. And even then I was thinking, there's even a hierarchy within all his creation, to some degree, right? Aren't the Jews and Christians the worst of all creatures, right? So there's still a hierarchy of some sort, you know what I mean? So it just doesn't make sense, like. But yeah. Anyways.
No, there's definitely a higher. I mean, have these guys not heard of a caliph? Have you not heard of a caliph? You don't have a caliph. You don't have a caliph right now, but he doesn't know about a caliph.
Imam, sheikh. Yeah.
The thing is, what's funny is when he brings this up to those people on that podcast, to those Muslims, they actually explain to him that, of course, in Islam we also have, the leader, the ruler, the imam, and all that. But they are, for example, they are, I don't know, they are higher in faith. That's why we listen to them, we obey them. So they basically tell him, no, you are actually wrong. We do actually have hierarchy as well, but we don't because everything has a reason. So they can't make sense of the issue, but they want to agree with him while also telling him that he's wrong, but saying no, you are right, even if you're wrong. It's so incredibly stupid. And
well, to be fair, they're in a tough position, right? Because I would in that position. You got this like new Christian that you're trying to parade. You're like, yeah, new Christian, and he's saying all this like heretical stuff, like an offensive stuff, But that's the thing too is like, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that one? That's what I was thinking. What they do is they point out, they say, well, yeah, we do have a hierarchy, basically is what they said. But they say because other people have more knowledge and that sort of thing. But they say it doesn't mean that God loves the other person anymore and sees them as equal. I think that's what he said too. But I was thinking even then you have hierarchies even, and because I was like, well, God doesn't. They're talking about internally inside of Islam, because outside of Islam, and even then, I'm not even sure how true that is. But outside of Islam, you definitely, it's not all God's creation at that point, right? Because it's like you have the ones that Allah does not love. You know what I mean? The non-believing, non-repenters, Allah does not love. So outside of Islam, that's not true. But even inside of Islam, you still have a hierarchy. So
yes,
it doesn't work.
Hey, I think your mic just went out. Go ahead and talk, John.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah. So tying to you both hit the nail on the head there. So they've got this brand new convert, and they want him to do their dawah for him. They don't want to drive him off. That's part of the reason where it doesn't really matter what this guy does. I mean, he could be having, orgies every day on live stream. And yeah, you would have an occasional Muslim calling him out, but the real dawah guys are not gonna, are not going to jump on him because they still want access to his followers. So they can't actually call him out for saying something totally stupid. But they know they can't say, yeah, you're right, dude. There's no hierarchy in Islam. They know they can't say that because they would sound like idiots to every Muslim who's watching. And who knows? Yes, you have hierarchies within Islam. You have leaders and followers. You have your scholars and those who submit to them. You have your caliphs, and you have to obey your caliph. As you have these kind of hierarchies within Islam, and then as John pointed out, you have these hierarchies where you've got believers and unbelievers, and everyone has to be violently subjugated to the Muslims, and the Muslims make you a second-class citizen, and so on. And so
and even with the term the worst of all creatures, right? That implies a hierarchy. That means there are Muslims who are not the worst of all creatures, right? So there is a hierarchy, even in terms of value, or however you want to describe it. I'm not sure if they use that language, but it seems that way in terms of value. There's still a hierarchy there. So
you pointed out, John, with the issue of love. So Allah says in the Quran, he has no love for unbelievers. He says Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. He also says in Surah 3, verse 110, Muslims are the best of peoples ever raised up for mankind. So they're the best. Jews and Christians are the worst. It said that Allah doesn't love unbelievers, but it also says all kinds of other people that he doesn't love. For instance, it says Allah does not love the proud. You can make a video of highlights from Andrew Tate and Sneako being the most arrogant, condescending people in the world, and just say, wait, Allah says he doesn't love the proud. So you're actually worse than Muslims who aren't proud. So there are endless hierarchies here. What in the name of common sense is he talking about? But notice this. Here's why I reject Christianity, because of this hierarchy over there. I like Islam because it doesn't have it. Isn't that right, guys? No, we got some hierarchies, but it doesn't mean that Allah loves that group more than another. It specifically says he loves those people more than another. It's like, I don't know what these guys.
And we're all God's children. They're like, no. Not God's children.
Hey, what is this? Running from Sheikh Uthman. AP, didn't we literally say Sheikh Uthman can come on here with Sneako to have a discussion? Didn't we say that?
Yes.
How are we running if we say he can join us? I don't know. All right, here we go.
You can have with Allah is a slave-master relationship. Secondly, when it comes to talking about hierarchies, it really depends.
Very, very important point there. He's saying, aren't we all God's children in Islam? No, no one is, in any sense. Not in a metaphorical sense. In no sense. You are a slave. The Quran says no one approaches him as anything other than a slave. So him just saying, because I like Islam because we're all God's children. Yeah, John's destroying that right now. Let me just back up a little so we make sure we didn't get that right.
The Quran even explicitly reprimands Christians and Jews for referring to themselves as children of God. Mm-hmm. Explicitly does.
Where his children come straight from Christianity. In fact, it's actually offensive to say such a thing.
Maybe not the word children, but the word creation.
Islam, since the best relationship that we can have with Allah is a slave-master relationship. Secondly, when it comes to talking about hierarchies, it really depends on what he means when he says that. Now, I'm not a Catholic, so I won't speak to that, but the answer...
But there you go. You should speak to that because there are direct hierarchies in Catholicism. The Pope is like the political leader of a religion. What about the bishops? What about the priests? See, this is another problem with Christianity is they can never decide.
Pause. This is so stupid. Go ahead, AP.
Has he never heard of the caliphate? Has he never heard of something like the caliph or the imam? This is I guess he hasn't. He's not very well informed. He's not very, very smart, not very well read. But it is known in Islamic history universally, and even if you look into the Hadith, it is known that Muslims are supposed to have a leader who is there, who is appointed, who is given and appointed by Allah. And that's how he becomes the leader. And Muhammad in the hadith, which are attributed to him, which are questionable, says that Muslims are to obey their leader no matter what, unless the leader commands them to explicitly to go against their religion and encourages harm, encourages un-Islamic, blasphemous, haram things. But this is very well known, and throughout Islamic history, Muslims had the caliphate, a caliph who was literally the political and spiritual leader of Islam. I mean, exactly what he just said.
And notice you also have things like prophets and so on as part of the hierarchy. But this is another problem with him not understanding any point John is making. John is saying, I can't speak for a hierarchy in the Catholic Church. And then he says, oh, but you should speak up because they've got a hierarchy. John isn't the one who said he had a problem with a hierarchy. You are, right? You said, John isn't saying I have a hierarchy. So John isn't saying, oh, I've got a problem with a hierarchy. And Sneako says, well, then you need to respond to the Catholic Church. John isn't saying that. Sneako said, I reject Catholicism because of the hierarchy, and I like Islam better because there's no hierarchy. And then it's like,
go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish it. It's like,
I was just thinking, well, I mean, I thought about this too, but I didn't put it in there. But if we're all God's children and we're all equal, and then you have Muhammad, is Muhammad nowhere in this hierarchy either? Right? Like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just equal as Muhammad. That's why I was trying to say in the video, it's like, depending on what he means by hierarchy, because otherwise I can't understand why he would say what he's saying. It doesn't make sense to me.
I know why he would say it, because he has no clue what he's talking about.
That's true. He doesn't even know what he's saying. Yeah.
He has zero clue what he's talking about. And but I mean, notice how weird this is, right? Everything he's saying as a reason for rejecting Christianity and accepting Islam actually is a problem for Islam, and he doesn't know it. You're pointing out, what does he keep doing? He'll say, I have a problem with submitting to a man. And you say, but you're required to submit to Muhammad in this religion. So, no, but we don't pray to him. Well, actually you do. You talk to him during your prayer. But he keeps doing the same thing. He'll lay something down as a problem. Like he did the same thing when he said, because we're all children of God in Islam. Like, no, you're not. Oh, but we're creation. Like, wait, he keeps saying, this is why I left Christianity and accepted Islam. And then the moment you show, well, if that's your reason, then you should reject Islam. He changes the reason. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, I was legit like wondering, like, what would he think? Like, because I was thinking, if you're sincere and these are the actual reasons for why you converted, then what happens when you start realizing that these reasons go against Islam? At that point, like, what do you really do? Are you pot committed at this point for you to change your mind? You know what I mean? And you're trying to backwards reason? Or do you really just man up and just like, and I'm not trying to talk down to him saying he's not manning up, but I'm just saying in general, like, you just man up and like you just say, okay, well, I was wrong. I'll have to think this over more before I decide that this is actually what I'm going to embrace. I mean, so we'll see what happens, but keep going.
That is actually what happens quite a lot with people who convert to Islam without understanding it fully. They later find out that there are a lot of problems with Islam and that there are a lot of problems with the things that they thought about Islam. But then at that point, it's already too late because they already convinced themselves that Islam is true and they already propagated it to others and told others that they converted. So it's already too late to just say, oh, okay, I was wrong.
But that's like that pot committed. Yeah.
And that seems to be the strategy in Dawah. It's say whatever you need to say in order to get this person to convert. Then once the person has converted based on these completely absurd reasons that you made up, then get him completely embedded in the Muslim community, especially if it's a woman. If she's a woman, immediately get her married and pregnant. Instantly, like as quickly as you can, get this woman married and pregnant, because it is much more difficult for a woman who now has children and a Muslim husband and the Muslim community to then say, oh, I'm rejecting Islam now. It like splits up the family, it messes up her life a lot. And so the goal is get them in by any means necessary and then get them so embedded that it's too hard for them to leave. Or in a Muslim country, get them to convert by any means necessary and they can't leave because you've chopped their heads off.
Perfect.
powerful dawah. It's the power of dawah.
Fuck is Christianity? Who belongs and who doesn't?
Oh yeah,
even
rewind that
agree.
That is
What's that?
Rewind that point because he says something else right there.
All right, I'll rewind it a little bit. Let's see.
Hierarchies in Catholicism, the Pope is like the political leader of a religion. What about the bishops? What about the priests? See, this is another problem with Christianity is they can never decide what the fuck is Christianity? Who belongs and who doesn't? None of them even agree.
That is Muslim friends get.
But that is
Are you kidding me, man?
That is so insanely stupid. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying he's under the impression that no Muslims disagree. But I mean, he did say in another clip a while back that he's like, well, there's small differences between Sunni and Shia. But for
there's massive differences between Sunni and Shia.
Small differences.
Yeah, and that's when he's just like, oh, you can't even disagree, Catholic or Christian or whatever. And I'm just like, have you been introduced to Sunni and Shia? You know what I mean? There's going to be people, or even take Nabil, right? What was he?
Ahmadi, yeah.
And remember, and he, if people were saying that he wasn't a real Muslim, right? You know what I mean? So you have people. So can Muslims not decide? And Nabil held to all the core tenets of Islam, and so a lot of Muslims say that he still was a Muslim, right? And so there you have a perfect example of how it's not all linear. You know what I mean? As he's trying to say that everybody's just clear and nobody disagrees. That's insanely not true. That's not true of even in science, in politics, in any human endeavor. And that's the reason why is because, I mean, we're all sinners too, and we're all flawed in some sense, but, anyways.
And what's interesting is you could, so take the perspective on someone like Nabil or a Shia or whatever group that there might be some debate about. Any group you point to, you could actually defend whether the person is Muslim or not Muslim by going to the Muslim sources. So take the Ahmadis. They have a different view of end times. They have a different eschatology. They'll say, Muslims will say, oh, but they believe in someone after Muhammad. All Muslims are supposed to believe someone after Muhammad. All Muslims are supposed to believe in the second coming of Jesus, right? So Ahmadis believe that actually happened already. They believe that Jesus returned as Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Now, I think that's stupid, of course. The question is, should a different view of end times disqualify you as a Muslim? You could go to passages and say anything you want. You can go to passages where say, if you recite the Shahada, you're a Muslim. Okay, did Nabil recite the Shahada? You can go to passages and say, okay, if you follow the 5 pillars of Islam, you're a Muslim. Okay, did Nabil do that? Yeah. Okay, so you'd be a Muslim there. So if you wanted to say they're not a Muslim, you have to go to a passage like we brought up earlier, Surah 4, verse 65, which says that if you don't submit to anything, if you don't submit to everything that Muhammad said, you're not a real Muslim. And so you'd have to find something that Ahmadis are rejecting from Muhammad or don't follow according to Muhammad, and they say, you're not a Muslim according to that. But if you set the bar like that, I don't think I've ever met a Muslim, because I've never met a Muslim where I can't point to something in the Muslim sources that he's not following. Mainly because the sources are so all over the place and contradictory that you actually can't follow everything that's attributed to Muhammad. So anyway, that's just the problem. But notice what he's saying. Catholics and Protestants say they disagree, unlike in Islam. What are you talking about? Does this guy have... We hear about Sunni and Shia. There are a ton of groups. There are a ton of different Sunni groups which have like radically different theologies. Like, does Allah have body parts or not? I mean, they're disagreeing on the basics of the basics.
I can give you an example of myself. I mean, I grew up in a Sunni Muslim household, and we would abide by one of the 3 main theological schools of Sunni Islam that are currently around, which is the Maturidi school, which is completely, which is more in agreement with how the Taliban actually originally thinks theologically, but completely contradictory to the traditionalist point of view, which the Salafis and others hate and even call blasphemy. And within that, my family and I at some point adhered to mysticism, to Sufism, which the traditionalists consider completely unacceptable. And indeed, they went so far that under mainstream or traditionalist rules in the past, centuries ago, people were killed for holding these mysticist beliefs and for having a different perception of where Allah is, what Allah's nature is, how you connect to Allah, whether Muhammad is an intermediary or not, and so on. And these are just basics. But within Sunni Islam already, you have huge variations in theology, huge variations in what is Allah, where is Allah, what does Allah look like, what is his nature, what is Muhammad's role, and so on. And then if you go outside of Sunni Islam, you have the Shia, you have variations within Shia. They killed each other for a long time over these variations. You have the Ibadis, the Khawarij, and so on. It's just, there's an endless number of differences within Islam. So this guy clearly has no idea what he's talking about.
And I was thinking too, even the modernist scholars, right? The modernist scholars, because they're doing hermeneutics differently. So as long as people are able to do hermeneutics differently, you're going to have disagreeing points. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's just interesting to me.
This is, I mean, let me go and read this comment real quick. Sneako disagreeing with his own prophet, like on, being children of God and things like that. And then pointing out how Christians disagree is so funny, right? Like you don't even agree with your own prophet on stuff. And then you're saying Christians disagree. But I mean, think about that. I mean, because this is going to be relevant for later. But I mean, even on sources, Sunni and Shia, they use different sources. They use different sources. I mean, they'll agree on the Quran, but then the Quran tells you have to go outside of the Quran to the life of Muhammad to find Muhammad's decisions and so on. But then they use different sources, which is why they end up with different practices. And so it's like, notice this seems pretty clear to me. Is this not clear to everyone else? But it's like, he's saying, I reject Catholicism because of this. And then you point out, if that's your objection, here's the same thing, but worse in Islam. And he says, but it doesn't bother me. And it's like, well, what was the point of your reason? If the point of your, what's the point of having a reason if as soon as the reason is exposed as a bad reason, you immediately just change the reason? I don't know.
It's quite obvious to me that he doesn't actually have any reason, that he doesn't actually have any proper, understanding or logic behind his conversion and behind why it makes sense to him not to worship a man but only worship Allah. He just says these things because that's what he heard, and he wants to somehow explain why he converted to Islam after Andrew Tate also did, and after he heard that Islam is the most red-pilled religion. So that's it.
Michael here with the super chat said, superb trio, AP, Dave, and John. That's true, but I just want to put that up because that's a picture of Sophie Scholl there. AP, when you were living in Germany, did you see like schools called Sophie Scholl School or something?
Maybe. I
heard it's like it became a common name. For anyone who doesn't know, she was part of a group that posted some newsletters called the White Rose. She was sentenced to death for opposing Hitler, for encouraging resistance against Hitler.
Yeah, she was an anti-Nazi.
Yeah. Unlike AP.
But that's why I don't like her.
All right, let's see what we got here.
My response is virtually identical to the Christian position.
Although there will be levels, like for example, the imam or the sheikh will have a certain level, not over people in sight of God, but we listen to them because they have knowledge. People like the leader of the Islamic community, we listen to them because they're the leader. They were kind of put in place by God to make sure.
Look, we have to listen to them because they're the leader put in place by God. Okay, are you the leader put in place by God? No. So you have to submit to the leader put in place by God. Is that a hierarchy? Yeah. Should this be a problem for Sneako? Yes, given what he just said, but nothing matters. Nothing seems to matter to him.
Community safe, and they have a responsibility, just like a husband has responsibility for his wife and kids. There's a level of authority there.
A hierarchy? It's not that he's better than a level of authority. What do you call a level of authority? I think there's a word for levels of authority.
Creation.
Yeah, is it creation? Is that the level of the?
That's the thing. This guy is clearly clueless and kind of dumb. But these two guys, they know exactly that they are not being truthful. They are dishonest because they don't want to. They don't want him to become a disgruntled new Muslim. They want to.
I wouldn't say they're dishonest. I'd say that they're just trying to do damage control while trying not to shut him publicly. So I get it. They're trying to. I honestly feel bad for them in that position because this would be awkward, right? All the reasons that he's given you for why he rejects Christianity, apply to Islam. Like, what are you supposed to do in that sense? You can either call him out and then like, demotivate him, and then basically, like, kick him out of Islam once he realizes what he did. And then they don't want that because, they think it's the truth. So I don't particularly see it as dishonest. I mean, people could disagree with me on that, but
I think it's noble that you are so charitable.
Yes,
but they wouldn't be remotely as forgiving as if they responded to you.
Probably
because
so.
I know these people, and yeah.
You see that? You've got John McCrae, the charitable Christian, AP, the merciless atheist.
Satan worshiper.
All right, let's see what we got here.
More. You can have like a poor person who worships God, who's very loved by God because of their, devotion.
Oh, unlike Christianity, where a poor person can't possibly be loved. See, good job converting, Sneako.
Okay. Now, the only major difference here is that in Christianity, God loves you whether you're faithful to him or not, and if you're a believer or a non-believing sinner, which just isn't the case in Islam. So this means that if hierarchies are a problem for Sneako, then he should also reject Islam. And even more, since he likes the fact that we're all God's children, then he should not only reject Islam, but also embrace Christianity, since that's a Christian concept, not an Islamic one. But the next reason that he gives creates an even bigger problem for his conversion.
Wait, does he not respond to that?
No. That happened a lot, because he would start by objecting, then I would finish up my thought, then he would just let it keep going. And you'll notice that. That's another theme, because I addressed what he was saying. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hey, I like Islam better because we're just children of God in Islam, right? No, you most certainly are not. That's a Christian concept.
We should actually just go to, like, some guys that are doing dawah, and then just say that and just see what they say. But like, hey, we're just out here because we like the fact that we're all God's children, so I want to convert to Islam. See what they say.
That would be an interesting experiment. That would be an interesting experiment. Go up to some of the dawah guys and say, you know what I like best about Islam and the reason I'm going to convert to it? Because Islam lets me eat pork. Unlike Judaism, which I don't like, I like pork. So I'm converting, and just watch them go, oh, yes, yes, absolutely correct. Yes, come, join us. You can have all the pork you want. Yeah, just join us. And then once you convert, oh, yeah, sorry, we got some news for you, sport. Yeah, remember the pork thing? Unless you're famous, and then in which case they'll just let you keep doing it. They'll just let you keep eating it and never bother to tell you because you're famous.
Think about Islam and why it's haram to draw Muhammad, and that's why I didn't really resonate with Christianity a lot growing up, because it's like all the images that they put of God. It doesn't make sense to me. We are not capable of visualizing what the creator of the universe looks like, what he's doing. Why is he in a cloud chilling with a beard? Why is he white? Why is God a dude? It doesn't make any sense. So there's no point in us even conceptualizing it, because we can.
Shout out to all the autistic schizos in the Rumble chat, where every single time a YouTuber has to go and steal the content and not ever cite. Look at that. He fucking credited Jadion in the description, but didn't put my own link to my channel, which they all do. Oh, put your PayPal, but then don't put the link to my Rumble channel, right? But all you autistic schizos who just say top H the whole time and get the chat blurred, how many times have we seen this?
Never have the capability to.
Let's pause there.
Man.
So guys, okay. If you just said a bunch of demonstrably false things about Christianity, and you also said a bunch of demonstrably false things about Islam, you've just said a bunch of things that are completely false and wrong. And that's not what you care about. Your obsession is, but they didn't link to my Rumble channel. Guys, there's a word for that. That's called narcissistic, right? If you don't care about how you're misrepresenting the Almighty and religions and Muhammad and Jesus, if you don't care about that, all you care, where's the link to my Rumble? I'm starting to think that religion is not a terribly significant issue for you, really. Everything is just like attention on you, and how can I get more attention? That's what it's starting to. Am I crazy here? Because that's what it looks like when someone like. Let me put it this way. If I said 50 false things in a row, and you pointed out that everything I said is false, and every reason I had for believing something is false, the least of my concerns would be whether you posted a link to my stuff. That would be like the last thing I'd be worried about. I'd be more like, my goodness, I'm wrong about absolutely everything. I lack basic critical thinking skills. I don't understand how logic works. I've got problems. I need to go study. It wouldn't be, where's my link? Where's my link? Huh? This is weird.
Well, even so, this is what's odd about it. Like he said something about the blur. I think he's saying that I blurred the chat. I'm not, unless I misunderstood. But I didn't blur this. I took this clip from YouTube actually. So what's funny is like the reason I tagged Gideon is because he's on YouTube. Sneako's not on there, and I wasn't saying go check out Gideon's his YouTube channel or something like that. I was just tagging him in the description as I was talking. I'm saying, yeah, and in a debate with Gideon, this is he said some other things or whatever. So, but that's why I didn't link the channel, because I'm not promoting the channel here. I tagged him, because I wanted him to see the video anyway. So I would have tagged him in it so that way he could see the video. But it's just kind of funny because, like, I mean, it didn't cross my mind since he's on Rumble. I can't even tag him there, and it didn't cross my mind for me to think to like cite his channel. I wouldn't care about that personally. So that that would never cross my mind to be like, oh, they should be putting me in the description. So anyway, so in my mind, like it's a weird response, but like if he's worried about it, I was like, I don't care. If that will take away your excuse, then that's fine. So I added him. I put a link to his Rumble in my description just so that way we take away that excuse, because to me it's so irrelevant. It has nothing to do with any of the other points I made. I don't have a problem doing it. Like you said earlier, if you just asked, like sure.
I think this video was published by a small Muslim channel, and they blurred the chat to hide all the stuff,
profanity and stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
But they didn't cut out his words anyway. So notice it's a Muslim channel that blurred whatever. He blames us. I'm like you, John.
They didn't link his channel. I don't know if they probably didn't link his one.
I wasn't even thinking in terms of this. If I'd had any clue that it's important to link to his Rumble channel, I would have done it. I'm not going to do it now just because he's throwing a tantrum over it and he's acting like a baby. And I think that when someone acts like a baby and you do what he wants, it's like you're encouraging people to throw tantrums and act like babies. But like I said, if he, because I mean we're making responses to him. If he says, "Hey guys, could you link to me?" No problem. Zero problem. Zero problem. But don't act like a crybaby.
Please link to my Rumble, please.
I don't think he linked to my channel in his description, did he? Of course he didn't. He didn't link to my channel.
Yeah, hypocrite. Well,
yeah, he did.
That's because
if we want to talk about stealing content, like think about Muhammad.
Yeah. Right, here we go.
No disrespect to the Catholics watching. I like the fact that Islam doesn't draw Muhammad, peace be upon him. You're not supposed to ever.
What's up?
There's a reason why I put that clip there too, because he even says here, he goes, well, people are going to clip my stuff. If you clip it, just punt that I said no disrespect to Catholics. So that's me going out of my way in order to give courtesy to what he's saying, respecting what he's saying. So to act like I was being a snake and stealing, you know what I mean? And taking the not quote crediting him is just ridiculous, in my opinion. But anyways,
yeah. And everyone notice it says right on my screen during this live stream, we've got rumble.com/Sneako right there in the corner. Don't be crying about
rumble.com/Sneako if you haven't heard it. Rumble.com/Sneako.
Everyone go check out rumble.com. That's the thing. I can't even send people to his channel because if you go there, it's going to be like him with like 2 girls making out on his lap and stuff like that. So
that actually happened 2 days ago. For those who think we're just making this up, just a few days ago there was footage of him live with some other guy who is live on his channel. He's in the background with 2 girls kissing each other, and then, as far as the other streamer explained, they actually had a threesome later on, which was off screen. But this is interesting because that guy was brought that up angrily in a live conversation together, where he was talking so virtuously about Islam again, and kept interrupting and kind of insulting his Christian message and preaching. And he said, "Do you really want me to expose you right now? Do you really want me to tell people that you just had a threesome like 2 days ago?" And he went completely quiet. This is wild stuff that is going on.
I saw a clip. I think the dude said that Sneako invited him to watch or something. He's like, I don't want to watch, but I heard the noises or something like that. It's like, This is the new poster boy for Islam. I like Islam because you guys won't call me out for having 3 ways, but this Christian, well, that's why I hate Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about any of this stuff, but this is just.
I don't care what he does, but it's
wild.
like,
But this is just, I don't know. It's the poster boy.
Here we go.
Visualize that because he was not alive in our time. There's no way that we would know what he looked like, especially Allah, God. He's never drawn. We have no idea what he looks like, or because there's no way. Humans are too stupid. We would never. We're not mentally capable of understanding what God would look like.
We can't conceptualize.
We can't conceptualize. So it's not supposed to. In Christianity, I'll grow up and you have like God on a cloud, and it's like this guy with a white dude on a beard. And he's like laying in a cloud, and he's like
where
his hand down. Like why?
Look, these guys are left. Ha ha! Dumb Christianity. Like what are you talking about? Like on that episode of The Simpsons or something? What do you? Anyway.
Well, what's funny too is you'll notice like a lot of all the reasons. So he takes the Islamic points, but he doesn't understand the reasons for why they give those points. And so then he has these ridiculously all the reasons he gives, you know what I mean, don't line up with how Muslims think, because he thinks things are forbidden. He's like, oh yeah, they're everything he calls haram, but he thinks they're forbidden, but he doesn't understand the reasons why. And so because of that, he has these ridiculous explanations. That's because I'm like, okay, so you never liked pictures, like, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is the perfect religion for me because they don't like pictures either. That sounds strange, right? Like
I like crackers, Norwegian crackers.
It seems more plausible that he heard that this is a Muslim talking point, and then he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, and he embraced it without thinking or understanding the reasons for why Muslims have these points. That's what seems more plausible. But I mean, again, I'm always careful not to assume people's motives because, you know, I don't like it when people assume my motives, so I'm not going to assume their motives all the time. But it seems more plausible to me that a lot of it's just backwards reasoning. That's what it sounds like. But
it's so weird that he makes it look like it is Christianity that has this picture of God who is a man and who is on a cloud and who has a beard and is a white. I guess he thinks that that Renaissance paintings, that Michelangelo's creation of Adam is actually part of the Bible or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you see, Christianity had Renaissance paintings. This is why I reject it. Islam had no Renaissance paintings. Ha ha! This is the religion for me. People are already pointing out what John's about to go to. So Jesse says Allah has 2 right hands and 1 shin. Correct. John Clash said 2 right hands. So people are pointing out exactly where John's about to go. Namely, the Muslims just said, oh yeah, you can't conceptualize him. What do you mean you can't conceptualize him? The Muslim sources are filled with conceptualizing him. But let's go ahead and see.
Yeah.
Heard. He thinks that it's wrong.
Ready for his argument? He's going to say that Catholics are different from whatever branch of Christianity he's a part of.
To draw God or Jesus or Muhammad, since we don't know what they actually look like. But if conceptualizing or visualizing God is a problem for Sneako, and not just backwards reasoning to come up with justification for why he's accepting Islam, then once again, Sneako has some serious problems. The first reason why is because, according to some Islamic teachers,
Allah described in the Quran that he has a face. Allah described in the Quran that he has 2 hands.
And both of Allah's hands are right hands.
We believe that both of the hands of Allah are what? Huh?
The hadith says very clearly that both his hands are right.
The saq here refers to Allah's shin. So he has a leg.
The Quran says that Allah has 1 eye.
Read Surah Qalam, Surah number 68, ayat number 42. The shin of Allah is mentioned.
In fact, Sheikh Uthman, the one who brought Sneako to his first mosque, he believes that Allah has
body. That's not true. Sartorial Shooter did.
Parts as well. Although Shooter gets pretty fuzzy when he's pressed on exactly what those body parts look like. But
by the way,
what's that?
I was thinking when he said Shooter. I was thinking he's talking about Uthman, but I think I have that wrong because he was talking about Uthman in this clip I was listening to. Then he said Shooter's the one that brought him to the mosque. So I thought he was talking about Uthman. Since
it's a different Shooter. That was his nickname. That was his nickname, Shooter.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Yeah, so I guess it's a different Shooter because he said that's not true. So they're probably that I never heard of. Yeah. So.
Well, John, we know that if anyone says something that turns out to be incorrect, you can't trust him ever.
When I said Shooter. You know, I meant that, I meant, I meant a mom.
Wait, whose nickname is? Why is his nickname Shooter?
Because he apparently used to be. I don't know. I just heard that from Anthony or something was saying that like when he's sharing his story or something like this. Apparently he was into gangs or something like that back in the day, and his nickname was Shooter or something like that.
When we were there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so notice, he has a problem with conceptualizing or visualizing Allah, but the Muslim sources are filled with references describing Allah in very, very weird fashion. But it's important. You have to conceptualize what Allah looks like. AP, are you familiar with this? Are you familiar with the hadiths where you're only going to be able to recognize Allah at the judgment because he's going to lift up his robe and show you his shin? Yes. And Muslims are said, it said that the true followers of Islam are going to recognize him by his shin. This means that you have to have an idea of at least what his shin is like, Muslims, or you're not going to recognize him at the judgment. Am I crazy here, AP?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. That's what it said. That's what it says in Bukhari, right? That at the judgment, they're not going to know. Allah's going to take on various forms, and Muslims aren't going to know what's real and what's not until Allah lifts up his robe and flashes his shin, and then they're going to be like, oh, that's Allah. Muslims, this means you have to, if you're a Muslim and you're going, I have no idea what you're talking about, you're not going to recognize Allah on Judgment Day according to your prophet. You're not going to know what to believe. You're going to go to hell because you don't know anything. You don't know how to spot your God.
In my theology,
and that's from Bukhari.
That's Bukhari.
That's the weakest hadith, right?
Weak hadith. It's the weakest of the weak, depending on if you're Shia.
In the hierarchy.
So in my Sunni Sufi theology, and in much of mainstream Islam, or parts of mainstream Islam, it was correct that you cannot really picture Allah and describe him, and that you have to just. You cannot take those things at face value. You cannot take them literally. You just have to not think about those, or just understand those as metaphorical. But this view is considered heretical or blasphemous by the traditionalists who took Sneako in, and who are with Sneako all the time. So he shouldn't be saying these things. This is not in alignment with the Islam that he is getting into.
Yeah. So, my goodness, I left Christianity because they conceptualize God, and the Renaissance painters made pictures of him, and I saw a picture of him in episode of Family Guy or something like that, and therefore I left that, and therefore I'm going to Islam where they don't do this, and then he
How does Michelangelo know what God looks like? This is unacceptable to me.
Unacceptable. So he has already picked up on the total inconsistency and hypocrisy. It's like he's already got that down. So he's good to go.
The thing, even as I played those clips, if Sneako were listening to those Muslim leaders describing Allah, then it would actually be impossible for Sneako not to conceptualize Allah. So in other words, he would be doing the very thing that he gave as a reason for why he rejects Christianity. So now, unfortunately,
he took those clips out of context. Yeah, I mean, it's Abba and editing, so his argument makes sense. But also, that doesn't refute the fact that I said that there's no depictions.
This guy's good, isn't he? Oh, you took that out of context.
Out of context.
You said exactly.
How would he even know? Think about this, though. How would he know that would be out of context anyway? Did he watch those clips? He's not familiar at all with the doctrine. That's why he's going to just assume they're out of context.
Yeah, wait. Was he saying that you're taking those clips of Muslim scholars saying that Allah has body parts, and he's saying you're taking those out of context? No, he's not. That is basic, fundamental 101 Salafi Islam. That's
what he doesn't understand. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, for those of you who are watching, guys, I'm just tossing all these nuggets of YouTube knowledge out repeatedly. Sneako destroys Salafis. That's it. You play the clip of him and then play what Salafis think, and he destroyed Salafis. And I'm saying that because lots of the popular da'is are Salafis. So
yeah. So, and what people don't realize, it's funny too, because I had comments from Muslims on my video saying, "Oh, you're hating on Islam." And I'm thinking, I'm not hating on Islam. I'm like, you shouldn't be mad at me. It's not me versus Islam on this video. This is Sneako versus Islam. This has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? And I try to make a point of that too. There's a comment here though that you guys missed. It says, we can't conceptualize God's face, but we can his nature. But remember, even in the first clip, didn't the guy just say, he's like, God has a head. He has one eye in the other clip. so I think that is conceptualizing his face, but I don't know. What do I know? Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, you don't know because you're not Sneako. All right, more from our super smart friend Sneako.
Is different than depiction.
Sneako's in a bit of a dilemma. He can either accept or reject exactly what those body parts look like. But here's the thing, even as I played those clips, if Sneako were listening to those Muslim leaders describing Allah, then it would actually be impossible for Sneako not to conceptualize Allah. So in other words, he would be doing the very thing that he gave as a reason for why he rejects Christianity. So now, unfortunately,
he took those clips out of context. Yeah, I mean, it's Abba pre-editing, so his argument makes sense. But also, that doesn't refute the fact that I said that there's no depictions. Description is different than depiction.
Sneako's in a bit of a dilemma. He can either accept or reject these teachers' interpretation of those passages in the Quran and the Hadiths. If he rejects their interpretation, then he would have to interpret those passages as non-literal representations of God, which is the very thing that everyone knows is true about the paintings that he's referencing. No one thinks that those are actually real depictions of what God is supposed to look like. But regardless, if Sneako doesn't like pictures of God, then he can still reject those since those aren't a feature of Christianity. It's not as if these pictures are found in the Bible or they're part of any Christian teaching.
But they put it in churches. You see depictions of God like on the
you just saw Muslims talking about Allah's shin and so on. That's in that's in they say that in mosques.
How is that not worse? I was like, you have them talking about God's body parts in your actual sources, and then you have something that's not from our sources that are on a building, which you can go to another building, you know what I mean? And then you're considering that that's fundamental to Christianity because it's in the building, but it's not fundamental to Islam, even though it's in the Islamic sources. That makes no sense. So it has to be a bigger problem for Islam than it would be in Christianity if this is actually a problem for him.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think that we're making anything up here, even though John showed multiple clips of Muslim scholars talking about Allah's body parts. But I
have verses too on the video too. I think.
Yeah, look at here. So this is Sahih al-Bukhari 7439. Look there in kind of the middle of the page, because this is a very, very long hadith. This is one of the ones where Jews say they worship Ezra and things like that, and it's total nonsense. But right there in the kind of the middle, it says, then the Almighty will come to them in a shape other than the one which they saw the first time. So Allah's doing this shape-shifting stuff. And he will say, I am your Lord. And they will say, you are not our Lord. And none will speak to him then but the prophets. And then it will be said to them, do you know any sign by which you can recognize him? Notice, Allah comes to them in some other form and says that he's their Lord. And then Muslims say, you're not our Lord. They're denying that he's their Lord because he's appearing to them in a form that they don't recognize. And none will speak to him but the prophets. And then it will be said to them, do you know any sign by which you can recognize him? Is there any way you can recognize Allah when you see him? They will say, the shin. And so Allah will then uncover his shin, whereupon every believer will prostrate before him, and there will remain those who used to prostrate before him just for showing off and for gaining good reputation. Notice, how do they recognize him? His shin. That's how they recognize him. Interesting stuff.
The giant glass ceilings and everything, you see depictions.
Obvious.
What's that?
One more point on that real quick, because if you notice, I use the words conceptualize and visualize. So let's just say that he doesn't have a problem with the words, but he has a problem with the pictures. But in the clips, the reason I use those two words, because those are the exact same words that he uses in those clips. He says conceptualize and visualize. And so it doesn't matter if it's words or pictures in that sense, because you're still conceptualizing or visualizing when these descriptions are being demonstrated in words. So it doesn't really help his argument there.
Wow, you're right. He actually explicitly says that, right? That's fun.
Yeah, so he has a problem with visualizing and conceptualizing. If he says conceptualize is a problem, well, great. You've got the conceptualization of Allah over and over again in the Muslim sources, like a beating drum, and in pretty mainstream Islamic theology. If his problem is with visualizing God, well, this isn't part of Christianity. It's people who are making paintings later. But if you have a problem, I think you're about to play the clip of Mufti Abu Layth saying, if you have a problem visualizing it, Mufti Abu Layth points out, you can't not visualize this when you read about Allah's two right hands and his shin. You can't. If human beings we think in terms of images, right? So if I say don't think about an elephant, a lot of people are just instantly going to get an image of an elephant in their head, even if I just told you don't think of an elephant. Well, if you're talking about, if you actually go through a list of Allah's body part, you can't help but start thinking, oh my goodness, wait, what? Wait, what? All right, let's go.
Yeah, don't think about two right hands.
God is an old white man. But on the other hand, if he does accept those...
And even culturally, it's forbidden to draw Muhammad, peace be upon him, or even it's completely against even drawing Jesus. You can't do that.
Muslims' interpretations of Allah, then he should reject Islam since he's against conceptualizing or visualizing God. And not only that, but he should also accept Christianity because even as Mufti Abdul Layth says, the Quranic depiction of Allah is far worse than God being pictured as a white man.
Yeah, honestly, that is not good. They've got some picture of some kind of a gremlin.
Guys, keep in mind, he is talking about mainstream Salafi Islam, which he rejects. But he's saying he even says in the longer clip, he even says, and they tell us, so they list his body parts, and then they tell us, but don't try to visualize it. And he goes, too late. He says too late, right? I can't not.
He says it's too late, mate, or something like that.
Yeah, too late. And then he says they've got an image of a gremlin. All right.
Last but definitely.
What's that?
I said, what's worse, picturing an old white man or the gremlin? You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like the gremlin is what you get from reading the sources. You don't get old white man in the clouds and stuff like this in anything you would take seriously as a Christian. If you take the Muslim sources seriously, you do get something that looks an awful lot like a gremlin. And then you even have other things like it's in I think it's in Tabari where Adam is created as, you actually have a weird passage where Adam is created as a kind of copy of Allah, but it means like he's physically looks the same. And then, but he creates him as like a statue at first or something like that. And then Satan is walking along and he thinks it's Allah, but he can't figure it out. So he crawls in to Adam and he comes out and then he realizes, that's not Allah, even though it looks exactly the same, because this thing is hollow, whereas Allah is solid. And so he actually crawls through Adam's digestive tract to realize that it's not Allah that he's crawling through. And it's like, wait, how are you not visualizing that if you're in your descriptions? Anyway, weird, wild stuff. Let's go.
At least, is perhaps the most absurd of them all. The fifth reason that he gives for rejecting Christianity and embracing Islam is the fact that the Bible's been changed and the Quran hasn't. But you're probably wondering to yourself right now, why would that be the most absurd of all of his claims, since that's a claim that Muslims often make? Well, it's not the ignorance of the claim that makes it the most interesting, but instead it's the way that he argues for it. So the context here in this clip that I'm about to play is that Sneako is having a debate with Gideon on Islam and Christianity, and Sneako is coming across as if he literally doesn't know any of the basics of the Bible.
What's the chapter and verse of that?
Matt, verse 39.
What's the chapter?
I don't know. There's been so many different.
He clicks on it says this is why I said he doesn't even know what the book of Matthew is, right? He says Matt. He doesn't know that's an abbreviation. Matt is an abbreviation for Matthew, and he's saying Matt verse 39. So he doesn't know that there are chapters. He doesn't know what he doesn't know that this is. Yeah, he doesn't know that this is the Gospel of Matthew. He doesn't know that there are chapters. He just says Matt verse 39. And he doesn't. It's Matthew chapter 5 verse 39. He doesn't know any of that. So this is he's claiming, I was this Catholic. He doesn't even know the Gospel of Matthew. He doesn't know what that is. He doesn't know that. He doesn't even know the name of it, let alone the contents. But he doesn't know the name of the book. And he's talking about how he saw these problems with Catholicism. He doesn't know the basics of the basics.
Yeah.
Let's see that again.
Cross as if he literally doesn't know any of the basics of the Bible.
What's the chapter and verse of that?
Matt, verse 39.
Matt, verse 39.
What's the chapter?
I don't know.
It's right there.
There's been so many
The
different.
Bible?
There's so many different. There's so many different versions of the Bible, bro.
What other versions of the Bible are there, Sneako?
There's so many, bro.
Okay, tell me some.
Okay, let's look up.
What versions of the Bible are there?
We have the King James Version, the English Standard Version, the New American Standard, the New English Bible.
You know the funny thing about all those different versions, Sneako?
What?
They're all just different translations, buddy.
But it gets worse.
Most people haven't read the original version. Have you heard of the Council of Nicaea? There's been a lot of chapters that have been removed, and the Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Everybody knows that about the Bible.
The Council of Nicaea was removed from the Bible, and it sucks because it was my favorite. It was my favorite book, man. The Council of Nicaea. When I'm getting down, I just like to read the Council of Nicaea in my Bible. But then someone took out the Council of Nicaea from my Bible.
Why did they remove it, man?
Hey, AP, you're familiar with this, right? Like if someone says I was a former Muslim, they want to give you like a test of how much of the Quran you've memorized. They want to give all of these tests on how faithful and devout you are. They want pictures. If you're a woman, they want pictures of you in full burqa and say, show us the evidence, blah, blah, blah. And here you can have someone who does not know the most fundamental basics. It's just, I saw a picture of Jesus in a painting once, so that's why I reject Christianity. But someone who thinks that the Council of Nicaea was a book in the Bible, and they'll parade him. You say, hey, look, the devout Catholic left Christianity.
Yeah, he knew Christianity was bunk, right? This guy knew the Bible was BS.
It's powerful knowledge.
Yeah, you brought it up the other day when Alidawa was having his debate with me. He was trying to test me on. He said, so every surah begins with with Bismillah, right? And I was like, no. I said, except Surah Tawbah. And he was like, okay. And he moved on. So he wanted to test me there just to see if I'm going to make the mistake of saying yes or not. I didn't make the mistake. I really pointed out that Toba doesn't have it. So he just moved on. But even that, if I did say yes to him, he would have made a huge show out of it.
That would still be a video that would have 2 million views. Yeah. Apostate prophet exposed as fake ex-Muslim. All if you didn't know that bit of Quran trivia, right? Yeah. And that's amazing. You remember, because we talked about it. We talked about it during a live stream when Hijab was saying why people shouldn't listen to Ayan Hirsi Ali. He said she used an incorrect hadith reference at one point. And since she used an incorrect hadith reference, therefore you shouldn't accept her as an ex-Muslim. No one should listen to her. And someone, it's like, dude, the Dawa guys make mistakes and blunders constantly. It never crosses their mind. Therefore, you should never listen to them. Yeah. I mean, we went through an entire video of Ali Dawa claiming to debunk Christianity. He got nothing right in the entire video. And we go through his claims about Islam, and he gets nothing right. And we're all supposed to still fall at his feet. And yet they're looking for any mistake anyone else can make, and it's enough to dismiss him as an ex-Muslim. And yet their guy here cannot know anything about the Bible. And you see, he's a devout ex-Christian. This is the proof that Islam is true. All right.
Council of Nicaea. What are you? You're saying there's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
No, it's not a book, but there was a council that removed parts of the Bible. Not a whole book, but it's.
Look, now we got dueling Sneakos, right? You got dueling Sneakos because that was the new Sneako. That was the update Sneako who knows, correcting the dumb Sneako from a couple days earlier or whatever. Let me go back a little. See this. We want to get this all.
Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Yeah, I haven't.
Council of Nicaea. What are you? You're saying there's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
No, It's not a book, but it was a council that removed parts of the Bible. Not a whole book, but it's...
Yeah, look at
he's saying it as he's Googling it. Yeah.
Yeah. The original video, he's saying it's not a whole book, so it's part of a book. But then him on the other side, he's saying it's not a book, it's a council. Now that's the corrected version, because we have two Sneakos on the screen.
Sneako destroys Sneako.
Sneako refutes Sneako.
Yeah, there you go.
So, as you just heard, Sneako rejects the credibility.
Bro, what type of Oblin Preach Christian channel is this, man? Are you...
he just said the Council of Nicaea is a book or part of a book that was removed from the Bible. John posts that, and then he freaks out. Isn't this interesting? It's like, AP, if you made a blunder like that about the Quran and Muslims pointed it out, would they have a problem pointing out that you have no clue what you're talking about?
Not at all. They would be talking about it for years.
Yeah, if you said, the book of Ahmed Didat was removed from the Bible, was removed from the Quran, and they go, what? This is the biggest idiot we've ever. You can never take this person seriously again. He's so stupid. And they wouldn't be saying, "Oh, you're taking that out of context."
I mean, they even do like one example. There is a video which goes around, which is going around, that is where Ali Dawa told me to recite the shortest Surah Kawthar, and I said I'm not reciting anything. They just took that part. He published it first as a short video with the title "Ex-Muslim doesn't know shortest Quran chapter," which is not even true. Like I'm saying, I'm not reciting anything, and it is, you know.
Haven't you recited that during live streams before?
I have.
I recall that. Yeah,
I have. I mean, that's a prayer that everybody.
You're just
knows.
saying you're just saying I'm not. You're just saying I'm not going down this road with you because no, anything you do is just gonna keep giving you requirements and so on. So you just said we're not going down this road. Yeah.
I know exactly what he was doing, so I said I'm not reciting anything, and he just took that and titled it
"Shocker."
Ex-Muslim doesn't know, and made a short video out of it, and now it has like 2 million views.
Yeah,
and
that's how they do it.
And I keep seeing this brought up by Muslims over and over again. Oh, aren't you the one who can't even recite the shortest surah? No. But that's what they do.
So
see?
Here's another thing. If Sneako has a problem with people taking things out of context, we could actually prove those things. And I bet you anything, he probably wouldn't address it publicly. He wouldn't say that this is a problem in Islamic, and he probably wouldn't even question the fact that they could actually be lying to him, since they're lying with a lot of this kind of stuff too. That's what's so bad about it. But I mean, I understand it's human nature to some degree when you get pot committed into something, you know what I mean? It's harder for you to weasel out, especially since he made so public about this. And he's been talking about it so much, then it makes it harder for him to be like, oh, actually, that was stupid, especially knowing that that's a death sentence for him if he becomes an apostate. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So anyways, he has some problems there. But.
And you've got these guys who are, telling him stuff. And I think it was a comment on our live stream from last night. Someone said, something along the lines of, the most shocking thing to me is not that these Dawa guys feel totally comfortable lying to people. It's more that the people feel totally comfortable being lied to. Like, even when you expose, hey, you have been lied to. Like, what they just told you is a complete lie. What you just heard is a complete lie. They just don't care. They just move on like it's nothing. And I've seen that over and over again. You can take a follower of Ali Dawa, Muhammad Hijab, can show them where they've been lied to by their Dawa hero. It doesn't bother them even slightly. It is very, I don't know, it's very interesting stuff. Let's see what we got here.
Do you see the selective editing here?
No.
I went and explained exactly what the Council of Nicaea was in that debate, and he completely clips it out because there's silence, and then to his viewers, he's like, whoa.
Did he or did he not claim that the Council of Nicaea is a book of the Bible? Yes. Yeah. You point, oh my goodness, man.
And here's the thing that's funny. He says, I went on to explain it, and he cut that out. He doesn't realize I actually go on to his explanation and respond to that in like 10 seconds.
All right.
So it's kind of funny.
Let's see. Let's see John selectively editing everything and ripping everything out of context.
He was quiet for 3 seconds. Debunked? Silence doesn't mean debunked. That means that we're figuring things out and having a combo. What the fuck?
Ability of the Bible in favor of Islam.
What the fuck is this?
Oh my goodness.
Because they removed the book of the council.
Shameful language from from Islam. Anyway,
he says figuring out. What he means is he was Googling it and just trying to read whatever he sees there, and he was even reading that wrong.
Yeah, and notice he's stating these things as fact, and then when a dude says there's no book of the, then he's Googling it. It's like, oh, just figuring it out. Yeah, which means you had no clue what you're talking about when you're talking about stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Bible. Now, for anyone who knows literally anything about church history, they know that the Council of Nicaea is not a book, but instead it's a council.
That's a good reaction.
People also tend to know that the Gospel of Matthew is a book in the Bible. They don't think it's Matt. Oh, it's from Matt. It's Matt. Matt verse 39.
Now, ordinarily, it wouldn't be a big deal that he's ignorant on Christianity and Islam since he's a new convert, but that's not the point. The point is, this is a problem since the reasons that he converted are based on the ignorance of Islam and Christianity. So after taking a second to Google the Council of Nicaea, Sneako says this.
There's no book of... What?
There was a council called the Council of Nicaea that manipulated the original Bible.
All right, pause right there for a second, because what's so insane about this is that even on his screen, on the front page of his Google search, it says there is no historical basis for the idea that Nicaea established the canon and created the Bible. It's
established the canon.
Yeah.
The Council of Nicaea had nothing to do with the canon of Scripture. It's not what it was about. And I'm saying this because he's about to, no. Oh, I didn't say they created the Bible. It's like, dude, it said they had nothing to do with establishing the canon, which means they had nothing to do with selecting the books of the Bible. The canon is the collection of books. Right?
I don't think he knows what the canon is. Probably.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
I was thinking that.
So it's literally on the screen that the Council of Nicaea was not about establishing the canon, and he's going to go on and say, "I didn't say they created the Bible." Anyway, let's see what he says.
Right there.
I didn't say that the Council of Nicaea created. I never said that. I said they changed it.
On his screen.
I said they changed it and removed stuff from the Bible, which means they did what? They're establishing the canon of Scripture, which is what it said on your Google search said did not happen. This is a guy who doesn't understand basic words that he's reading. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do.
Wild stuff.
Hold on. Here we go. Matt verse 39. People are still laughing about Matt verse 39. All right. Matt verse 39. All right, let's go.
And it's highlighted. And this means that not only is he not reading the screen, but it also means that he didn't even take the time to do a 2-second Google search.
Wait, he is reading the screen. He doesn't know what words mean, right? he doesn't know what words mean. Yeah, canon is the authority. Canon is canon is authority. But used in context of that, it's the list of authoritative books, and the Council of Nicaea had nothing to do with that. Guys, you can lay this down as a rule, anytime, because people they appeal to people's ignorance, right? If they know people don't know what they're talking about, they can say whatever they want. When someone starts talking to you and they start talking about, oh, the books that were removed from the Bible and blah blah blah, Council of Nicaea, you've just spotted either a liar or a moron. Right? It's one or the other, because it had nothing to do with it. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see what he's got.
On the Council of Nicaea before deciding that this was his reason for rejecting Christianity and embracing Islam. So now when it comes to his...
Bro, this dude is fucking disingenuous as fuck.
Yeah, he's the one.
When did I ever say that the Council of Nicaea created the Bible?
Point about the Bible
he doesn't understand. He doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it.
He doesn't.
Yeah, because I think he's being genuine here too. Because I think he literally just doesn't understand like what the words was that he saw.
That's the thing. Can you blame this guy for being so completely oblivious, to these very simple facts? Can you blame this guy for not knowing at all what he's talking about, but then trying to at least participate in the conversation and trying to make a point? And I mean, can you blame him for not being smart enough to even understand what he's talking about? it's just it is very. I mean, it's very paradoxical, right? I mean,
what's even funny is he's like, oh, he's taking me out of context. He's saying created the Bible when I said change the Bible, and that's my next point here in like 2 seconds.
yeah, but I mean, think about that. It's still actually on the screen. He doesn't know what the words mean on the screen, and it's like, how do you have a conversation with someone who doesn't understand words? Right? You don't understand basic. Now, it's a situation maybe he doesn't understand like what the canon of scripture is and so on. But the point is, he's attacking you as being disingenuous.
Yeah.
When it literally said on the screen in words that he doesn't understand that he's wrong. Right? So he's saying, Ed, the Council of Nicaea, they took stuff out of the Bible, meaning they established the canon. And then it says on the screen, didn't establish the canon, not the Council of Nicaea, nothing to do with that. And then you're the one who's being disingenuous because he doesn't know what the words mean.
Yeah,
this is awesome. This is
man. I feel bad. I feel like we are bullying a little child right now. That's what it feels like.
It does. I mean, guys, it's. But what do you do when they put this guy forward? I'm getting messages. You're, now what are you going to do? That Sneako has converted. This is the proof. All right, but here's John's.
I want to say, Sneako, if you are going to review our review of your review of the video, we don't hate you. I don't hate you. We're not making fun of you. We don't have any problem with you. I don't have any problem with you at all. I think you are very entertaining.
Yeah, I kind of like him. I kind of like him.
Yeah, but this is just not it. This is not your stuff.
Yeah, that's
I kind of like, and that's the point too, because like the point of my video, I'm not trying to do it to make fun of him. Like it's more so to point out that these are the reasons he said he converted, and these reasons literally have nothing. They're based on 100% ignorance. So that's the point that's being trying to make. It's not to attack, just to say that he's whatever. I think he's just wrong, and so it's kind of funny. You know what I mean? But it's not to make fun of him.
Yeah, guys, this isn't about piling on and so on. It's I mean, if someone says these are my reasons for leaving Christianity and my reasons for embracing Islam, if you know that all those reasons are false, should you point it out? Well, there are two main reasons you could point it out. One, if you're actually thinking, oh, this person has been misled by his own ignorance and by being deceived by others, you would want to help that person. And so notice John's being very friendly. Sneako, you don't know what you're talking about here. All of the reasons you're giving actually backfire. It's pretty straightforward. So there's that. But then notice, even if Sneako is totally stubborn and he's dug in and he wants to cling to Islam, he's still talking to a lot of viewers. Some of those viewers, probably most of those viewers know more than him. Like probably most of his viewers would know that Matthew was a book or that the Council of Nicaea was a council. But there will be a subset of people who don't know anything about Christianity or Islam. And he's saying, these are the powerful reasons. We don't want those people to be misled just because Sneako is clueless. So we respond. Yes. So, I don't know what else to do when people are spouting nonsense other than correcting it. Right, let's see where he's going.
Council of Nicaea. Honestly, I feel bad for him. He's likely just repeating Muslim slogans about this, not realizing that this actually comes from a Dan Brown novel and not actual history. If anyone decides to go look up the actual history, then like Sneako, it would only take you really 2 seconds to learn that the Council of Nicaea literally had nothing to do with determining what books went into the Bible and what books didn't. In fact, the council wasn't even about the books of the Bible. Instead, it was about the Arian heresy. So honestly, I think that Sneako was misled here by some Muslim apologists who either knew or should have known better. But again,
wrong. I was in my Catholic church and I saw them take out the Council of Nicaea.
Charitable, because I'm a charitable.
In a painting with God as a old white man in the clouds taking out the Council of Nicaea from the Bible. I saw it.
Guy, and I'm feeling really charitable today. So let's say that Sneako is right that they actually did remove books from the Bible at the council.
What hypothetical? You see, he's agreeing they took out books of the Bible. I don't know what to do, man. I can't get through 5 seconds without seeing how deranged all of this is. Okay, let's go.
Of Nicaea. Well, the problem with that claim is that we literally have tens of thousands of quotes from church fathers citing the scriptures long before, and we have dozens of manuscripts from before the Council of Nicaea.
So which version of the Bible is he talking about? There's one.
This from the guy who thinks that English Standard, because it's called English Standard Version or something like that, you're talking about different Bibles. Let's go ahead and see what he says here, and then we'll do a little experiment.
Quran. There's one Quran. It's lasted 1400.
He obviously didn't watch my video.
He said that he doesn't even agree with Catholics. They haven't, bro. All Christians have their own version of the Bible. They're all different.
All Christians have their own version of the Bible. They're all different. Wow, guys, he just don't say we misrepresented him or took him out of context. Maybe you could say he's exaggerating or something like that. But all Christians have different Bibles and so on.
And he said the original Bible earlier too. Remember, he keeps saying, "Yeah, the original Bible is not like the Bibles today." Like, what original Bible?
Yeah, what in the world is he talking about?
A conspiracy. Oh, well, they didn't want you to know, but there's an original Bible. Then how would he know, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense in my mind.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I'm trying to figure out what to respond to, but I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what he's actually claiming that's not absurd, but it's because he has no idea what he's talking about. So guys, I asked both of you right before we were about to start. I said, bring a Bible. Bring a Bible. We'll do a little experiment, right? Take whatever Bible you got, and then you can tell us what version it is. And I've got a few here, so I can use a different version of the Bible. But go to John chapter 1, just because, I mean, you could kind of pick anything, but we'll go with John chapter 1 here. What are you using, John?
So John verse 24. What verse?
Yeah, John verse 24.
No, Joe.
What Bible version do you have, John?
I have this one is NIV, I believe.
That's an NIV. So John's got an NIV. What do you have, AP?
I have an NKJV.
New King James. New King James Version. Okay, I will use, I've got an NASB and I've got a New Revised Standard Version. I'm going to stick with the New Revised Standard Version because it includes the word version. So
Then I will switch to NASB.
So you know it's different.
What?
Then I will switch.
Open them both, AP, because we can get all these different versions, so we can see all of these different teachings in these different Bibles.
Okay.
We want all the different Bibles.
The New King James Version and the New American Standard Bible.
Okay, you open those to John 1? You open to John 1, John?
Yeah. Yep.
Just read let's see. Probably read a couple verses just so we can see how radically different they are. Yeah, go ahead and read. Let's read the first.
We could do 18, 118. That might be a good one.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we can use 118 as an example of a translation difference. But read the first. Just read the first 5 verses of the Gospel of John.
Okay. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Yeah, this is a good one too. Going against his earlier arguments. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
All right. Now that was what version? The New International Version?
That's right.
Okay, so now I'm going to quote the New Revised Standard Version, a different version. John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. So that's a completely different Bible version from what John is using. AP, you've got two Bible versions there. Why don't you tell us what those say so we could get the completely different message of these Bible versions?
Yeah, this is, of course, a completely different Bible that is completely, hugely different here. This is the New American Standard Bible, I think. Yes, it is. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. This is what the New American Standard Bible says. And this is what the New King James Version says. Let me see this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. This is what this one says.
Guys, these are all any you Muslims who are watching, These are all different Bible versions. They're different translations. They're worded slightly differently, but it's kind of all the same thing. If you're saying those are different and they've all got these different Bibles, okay, well, I mean, my goodness, I've actually got more versions of the Quran than I have of the Bible here. I've got more versions of the Quran than I've got of the Bible here. What would you say? But you're just translating the same Greek. Yeah, these are translations of the same Greek Gospel of John. How? I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I'm sure, because I was trying to think of his argument. Like, I think what he thinks is that the different versions come from different manuscripts or something like that, rather than
like different books. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're different versions of the same thing because language changes. Like, that's why the King James Version is way different than the New American Standard Version. You know what I mean? And so I think it's that fact that he just doesn't understand that that's what these versions are. I think in his head, he thinks, they're different manuscripts for all of them. I think that's what he's thinking.
I thought of just one point, which is he did mention Catholics and Protestants having different Bibles. And there is only this one point where the Catholic Bible, correct me if I'm wrong, has a different, slightly different canon in that it includes several books which are not included in the general Protestant Bibles. But that's it. It's not different in content of the specific books. It just has different books which are part of that canon. That's it.
Yeah, that's just as a quick. In fact, since this is such a common, misunderstanding of Muslims, it's probably worth making videos about the canon. So, guys, Catholics and Protestants, 27 books of the New Testament. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, and so on. They're the same. We have the same New Testament canon. Now, here's where the difference of the canon of the Old Testament is concerned. You had two basic approaches, and you had them before anyone was thinking in terms of Catholic and Protestant. You had this from the early stages of Christianity. You had two basic lines of thinking here. One line of thinking was, since the Apostle Paul talks about the Jewish people being given the oracles of God, one line of thinking was that when Christians who have the New Testament, when Christians are thinking about the Old Testament, since the Jews were entrusted with the oracles of God, you should go with the Jewish canon of Scripture when you're talking about the Old Testament. So the Jews know what they're talking about when it comes to the Old Testament. And so you have people who would go with the standard Jewish canon of the Old Testament when you're talking about the Old Testament. There was another line of thought, which is, because keep in mind, the Jews didn't just have the Old Testament as far as books. That was, they had their canon, but they had additional books. The early Christians in their churches start citing some of these books because some of them were included in the Septuagint, the Greek edition of the Old Testament. That included some books that were Greek that we call apocryphal. So even though these aren't the official canon, they're still sometimes included. And the early church, some churches use those. So the two competing lines of thought were, what is regarded in mainstream Judaism as the official canon? We should stick with that as the Old Testament canon. The other line of thinking was, what are churches using and quoting? Because then it has a kind of authority from the church if churches are using it and recognizing these scriptures. But they were also using books that we call, Protestants would call apocryphal. Catholics would consider them deuterocanonical, meaning second canon. So the question is, what are the contents of the Old Testament? And if you go in one direction, you say, this is the canon according to the Jews, and we want to stick with that. Or you have, this is the Old Testament canon according to certain books that churches are using, and we'll recognize that. And so that, again, that's before that. Those two lines of thinking were there before Catholic and Protestants were having these disagreements. It later ended up with Protestants, for the most part, going in one direction and Catholics going in the other direction in terms of accepting what are called the deuterocanonical books. So that's the breakdown in a nutshell. Again, New Testament, totally the same. Books of the Old Testament, the same. There are some additions and then there are the in a Catholic Bible there are the additional deuterocanonical books. So you don't have a different New Testament. You have some extra material depending on your perspective. You have either some extra material in the Old Testament or some missing material in the Old Testament. That doesn't affect the New Testament. So there's a disagreement. Now, here's the thing, because we could make separate videos on this. Suppose you regard that as a problem. Some Christians have had a disagreement about some of the contents of the Old Testament. If you think that's a problem, multiple things going on here. One, Muhammad's own followers disagreed about what's supposed to be in the Quran. Abdullah ibn Masud thought there was supposed to be 111 chapters. Ubay ibn Ka'b said there's supposed to be 116. The Quran that Zayd and Uthman settled on has 114. So Muslims had disagreements about the contents of the Quran. So if it's a problem for Islam. You should leave Islam. Will Sneako do that? Of course not. He will change his objection because that's what he keeps doing. In addition to that, so there are actually three separate problems here. So that's one problem. There were disagreements about the contents of the Quran. Two, the Quran also affirms the scriptures of the Jews and Christians, right? That's what the Christian dispute was about. It's, we agree on the New Testament. What about the contents of the Old Testament? If we were to say, what are the actual contents that are authoritative scripture? What's the list? And some Christians have disagreed about whether certain Old Testament books are part of the list. Well, guess what? Islam also affirms the scriptures of the Jews and the scriptures of the Christians. So if you ask Muslims, what is Allah actually affirming when he affirms the scriptures of the Jews and Christians? You're going to get different answers from Muslims. Muslims will give you different answers about what the actual contents that are being affirmed as scripture are. So if it's a problem for Christians to say, we have a disagreement about the contents of the Old Testament, if that's a problem for Christians, Muslims would tell you that they don't agree on the contents of the Old Testament. You could go to different Muslim scholars and they will give you a different explanation of what's being affirmed as the Old Testament in the Quran. So if that's a problem for Christians, it's also a problem for Islam. So you got the same problem. And then in addition to all of that, how do you know how to follow the Quran as a Muslim? You have to go to the Hadith, because certain things you can't even understand in the Quran without going to the Hadith. But guess what? Muslims disagree on which collections are authoritative. So if a disagreement about sources refutes your position, then great. Then Islam is false. You don't know how to follow Muhammad, because they disagree. Oh, we follow Bukhari. Oh, we follow Al-Kafi. Okay, well then you disagree on how you know about Muhammad. And so, like, how can you say this is my reason for rejecting Christianity when, one, you don't even understand what the issue is. Two, you're not talking about tons of different Bibles here. You're talking about a disagreement of certain contents of the Old Testament. And then three, if you take that objection seriously, you've got a much bigger problem in Islam, because you've got the same thing in the Quran itself. You're not even talking about Christians looking back at the Old Testament. You're talking about Muhammad's companions not agreeing on what's in the Quran, which is their final revelation, and they still don't agree on it. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do when I don't know what to do.
He's like, yeah, there's chapters missing from the Bible, or that were taken out of the Bible. That's pretty hilarious. He's
yeah,
like,
what?
Yeah, big problem.
This is wild stuff, man. This is wild stuff. All right, should we continue? I think we should be getting the end of it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Not one consistent Bible. Of course, there's English translations of the Quran, but even then, people who read the English version or read translations know that it's not as accurate as the Arabic Quran is, the original one.
There he's just saying the English translation would not be as accurate as the original Arabic of the Quran. Christian would say the same thing, that an English translation is not as accurate as the Greek of the New Testament. Right?
And everything in Islam is cited exactly to that. I don't even, Chet, for the Christians who are saying that he's cooking, do you even know which version of the Bible he's talking about?
No, you don't either, because you don't know what a version is. Isn't this funny? He's flipping out because people in his chat are saying John is cooking. That John's cooking, and he's flipping out. You don't even know what Bible version he's using, because they all have different Bible versions, and he doesn't even know what he's talking about. This is interesting stuff. All right.
Sad.
Because
it's very,
all
very
of them
sad.
are different.
All of them are different.
Decide which one is actual Christian canon.
was even a thought. So if someone really did change the Bible at the Council of Nicaea, then it would be pretty easy for textual critics to know what they changed and to fix it. We wouldn't be—
Yeah, and he missed your entire point. The point is, by the time you get to the Council of Nicaea, hypothetically, if the Council of Nicaea decided, hey, we're just going to make stuff up and change things, okay, you have tons of quotations from church fathers that predate them. Yeah. And so you would be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Relying on the Council of Nicaea to know what was in the Bible anyway. And of course, when it comes to the Old Testament, then Sneako has also been deceived in believing that the Old Testament was changed as well, when in reality, history once again shows us that it wasn't. For a long time—
Always Sorcerer, thanks for the 35. This is taken out of context. Appreciate you. She was saying why she left her ex and why a man like Sneako drives you crazy because they don't simp and check her. She never talked. Okay, I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
I don't know why you're talking about it.
We had were from the 10th century AD. But once we found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, we found Old Testament manuscripts that were more than 1,000 years older than the ones that we previously had. So of course, this gave us the opportunity to see if the Old Testament manuscripts that we had been changed or not. But once we compared them with one another, they proved to be virtually exact. So not only do we know that the New Testament wasn't changed, but we also know that the Old Testament wasn't changed either. And by the way—
I'm only saying this because I know Sneako will not have understood anything you just said right there. So we know historically the Council of Nicaea was not choosing books of the Bible. But if they had, at the Council of Nicaea, decided, we're going to change a bunch of stuff in the Bible, you still had too many New Testament quotes, even in the church. So you could wipe out every Bible. You'd still have the quotations from the church fathers before the Council of Nicaea. And if you're saying they changed the Old Testament, so they're rewriting it or something like that, rewriting prophecies, we've got the Dead Sea Scrolls long before the Council of Nicaea. So you could change whatever you want at the Council of Nicaea. It wouldn't change it. It's done. It's like if I decided to change the Quran right now, that would not change every earlier copy of the Quran. I don't know what to do, man.
Wait! You just admitted that they changed it.
David just admitted it. How can this guy call himself a Christian when he's
Sneako, if you're watching this, I'd love to have a conversation with you in private or in public about this. So reach out to me if you're interested.
Yeah, bro, but look at the fucking snake shit you did. Using so many clips, but the fact that, and this is what I'm so sick about, these fucking bot tubers, is right now, I'm not even lying, I'm dominating on YouTube. I'm pulling in so many views on YouTube, and if I was still on there, the amount of money that I'm missing out of because I was banned—
This is what he's complaining about?
7 months ago is insane. And all these people that make videos about me do not credit my channel.
They don't credit you.
The fact that he went out there to credit Jadion because he's on his side of the argument, and he didn't even use a clip from his stream. He just cited him because he agrees with him. That's some—
Do we need to keep going here? Because now he's just whining.
What's funny about that is, like, you see, I tagged Jadion. I wrote Sneako's name there, but because Sneako doesn't have a YouTube channel, I couldn't tag Sneako. So he's like, oh, he's citing Jadion because he agrees with him. What? I put his name there, and I also have your name there too, Sneako. It's not like I removed Sneako's name. So it's just kind of funny. Anyways.
Yeah, so you can do a tag, an official YouTube tag to another channel, but he doesn't have a channel, and therefore you didn't tag him, and he's flipping out about it. Are we done with this, by the way? Because he's about to go on to my clip, which we've already watched. All right, so
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, what do we have? Well, guys,
that's a lot.
Every single reason he gave for converting to Islam was exposed as complete nonsense, that he didn't know what he was talking about when it comes to Christianity, and that he didn't know what he was talking about according to Islam. All of the objections should cause him to leave Islam and convert to Christianity, not leave Christianity and convert to Islam. And once you've completely destroyed all of his reasons, his response is, but you didn't link to me. See, this is why I don't take you seriously. I reject Christianity. Why? Because the Christians don't link to my Rumble channel. This is my real reason for rejecting Christianity. These Christians never respect me and link to my Rumble channel, man. This is why I can't stand Christianity. Muslims, they link to my Rumble channel. Muslims do it. They point people to my Rumble channel. So they can see me having all these girls making out on my lap and stuff. You see that? Come on, what's wrong? That's why I'm a Muslim.
Yeah, it's okay, like, because unfortunately I really don't think he understood a lot of rules. I mean, Yeah, part of it was a problem, and this is what I said earlier, and I think it's worth reiterating. Is I think, like, honestly, I think the fact that, like, after you commit so publicly to something like that, and you're taking all this heat and you're justifying it, you get a more and more pot committed into that concept. Because now I showed all of the reasons for why he said he converted. I think that's all of the reasons. I think there was one more that I didn't include because I wanted to round it at 5 instead of 6. But there was all of and the other one was just basically him talking about the Eucharist.
Oh yeah. You mentioned. A matter of fact, that was actually some more of the point which we could. But yeah, the only thing I remember was you said there's also the issue of him saying there's only one Quran, and then you said I would cover that.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Oh, John didn't even cover this," you know. So he was just, so he was saying, "Oh, it left me on a cliffhanger. Oh, what is this? This is my main reason."
Yeah, because
like, man, if you go watches your video, that's going to be pretty bad. So yeah. Anyways, interesting. I do give him props though for actually sitting through and playing all of it, even though he was. I mean, people were saying that he was getting cooked the whole time. So like, because he actually still sat there and played the whole clip, I give him props for that. Yeah, I think that was cool of him to just continue to play it and not just try to think of, or try to get out of it somehow. So that shows that at least he's willing to stand his ground there. So props for that.
Yeah, that is, and I totally agree. Total respect for Sneako for playing him getting cooked, right? I mean, he's getting cooked, and he sat there. I mean, he threw a tantrum, and then in the end, he had to go, "Oh, but you didn't link to my Rumble." Ah! And so he looked like, but massive credit to him for actually sitting there and taking that, because he could have just ignored it and could have just played Zakir Night clips or something like that. But yep, pretty.
That's even better than Fareed playing our live stream in which we are cooking Muhammad, and so.
Yeah, he played us. I mean, he played us like actually insulting Muhammad, and so hats off to him. Hey, I have to like I like the way these guys are going in their live streams, playing our stuff.
Amazing.
That cooks them. This guy Mars said, for real, we should pray for Sneako. AP, are you going to pray for Sneako?
I agree. Yeah. Totally.
I will pray to the flying spaghetti monster. Or I'll just pray to nothingness and
to the nothingness that brought us here.
That's what I will do. Yeah.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts on any of this before we close out? What do you think?
Right.
I mean, I agree. I think we should pray for Sneako, and I mean, again, if Sneako wants to have a conversation, I'd love to. I mean, and that's the whole thing too. I don't want to dunk on him, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm going to be like, oh, I have all this knowledge you don't. Like, really just like that's why I said in private, because then it's not like, because I don't care. I mean, I'd like for him to actually come to knowledge of the truth, so of course I'd want to have a conversation with him to bring him in that direction. I don't care about clicks. He kept saying I'm trying to get clicks and whatever. Like, I mean, if we're keeping it above, I think my channel is bigger than his Rumble channel right now. You know what I mean? So it's not about that. It's really about just me actually caring about the issues at hand, So anyway, if he wants to have a conversation in private, cool. He can hear my side, and then he can decide what he wants to do after that. You know what I mean? Then that's cool. If not, that's cool as well. You know what I mean? But hopefully, he still wants to come understand the truth and try to look at things objectively, no matter what. So.
All right, AP. Are you ready to return to Islam based on those powerful arguments?
I will think about it. Yeah, but no, I just want to say, I want to just reiterate again that I might have said things as a reaction during this whole stream, in reaction to the stuff that he says that might be kind of insulting or condescending, but the idea is definitely, and the general attitude that I have. And that we have is definitely not to insult him, to make fun of him, to hate him, to point at him and say, "Oh, look at this idiot." It is just we have to sit here and talk about the things that he says when he is presented as a new poster boy, and when he does go out there and talk about these things, when he is in a position to possibly influence other people. We have to respond to the things that he says. If the things that he says are very, very bad, and I'm not saying morally bad, I'm saying intellectually bad, then we have to point this out. But other than that, there is no hate for him, no hostility. I think I respect him as a human being, and I think that he's a funny and entertaining guy. And I'm always open to coming together and having an honest conversation with him as well, and without any attempt at all to, I don't know, humiliate him or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's all in good faith.
Yeah. So Sneako, my view is if you are talking to people, you are responsible for what you're telling them. And so if you're telling people completely false things, you're responsible for that. You're responsible for misleading people. And if you don't care about that, if you don't care if you're getting things completely wrong and you're completely misrepresenting things, yeah, Islam's probably the religion for you, because your God, your new God and your new prophet were like that, right? They said things that are completely false, that demonstrated they have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. According to the Quran, Christians believe in a trinity made up of Allah, Jesus, and Mary. According to the Quran and the Hadith, Jews worship Ezra as the son of Allah. Show me a Jew ever who worshipped Ezra as the son of Allah. It's false. So yeah, you do have a good precedent in your religion for talking and having absolutely no clue what you're talking about. Your God and prophet are like that. But I hope you would actually be better, because again, you are responsible if you mislead other people. You're responsible if you are misleading other people. And what's weird is I would expect you to actually care. You say things. You said almost every reason you've given for rejecting Christianity and accepting Islam actually is more of a problem for Islam and should give you reasons for accepting Christianity. And when John McCrae points that out to you, you get mad at John McCrae. You don't get mad at the people who lied to you. You don't get mad at yourself for your ignorance and for spouting things that are completely false. You get mad at the person who corrects you. For everyone who's watching, that is not a good characteristic. You should be if someone corrects me on something, yeah, if you catch me in the wrong mind, I might be ticked off that you're correcting me, but at the end of the day, I'd like to be corrected if I'm wrong about things. If you view people who correct you as your enemies and view people who lie to you as your heroes and champions, your problems are not over, my friend. So anyway, everyone keep that in mind. AP and I, there's some links to me and me and John's videos are in the description box. The videos that Sneako's kind of reacting to. You can check those out. I don't have a link to Sneako because he's whining. But if you don't have to be nice. You don't have to grovel. Just say it like an adult. Say it like an adult. Hey guys, could you link to my Rumble channel? I will do it every time I talk about you. Happy to do it. Just act like a grown-up. And AP and I will be live on, the theory is that we're going to be live on Tuesday, I think with Cameron and Khalil. So a Catholic and an Ismaili Muslim talking about whether Christians and Muslims should unite to respond to atheists. That was Cameron's tweet. John, you actually disagreed with him. I can't believe you disagreed with Cameron about something, man. But we didn't agree. Yeah, we're finally going to have it out. We're finally going to have it out on Tuesday. The final battle between Christianity, Islam, and atheism will be Tuesday on AP's channel. Hope you all tune in for that, and we'll catch y'all next time.
What color is your Bible? What color is your Bible?
What color is your Bible? What color is your Bible? What? You see? Oh boy. Catch y'all later.
See away from it.